Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Tuesday night edition of Spaced Out Radio Tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and Amelia Cotter, is going to join us. We are going to talk ghosts. We're going to talk poetry. It's going to be a fantastic night. Dirty Filth is here as well to draw another great cartoon. And the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you here, like Race Fan in the gold medal position, Laura Lobbs with the silver, and B with a nice bronze medal tonight. Hi, Audacious Amber. Audacious Amber will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Forrest Louie, Chris 716, Dino Bravo, Bar Madison. Good to see you all. Hi, Robert Lamoth, Deer Slayer. Len Dorman. Holy cow, you still exist. Good to have you back in the chat room, Len. And Cosmic Joe, Jenny White Bear. Nice to see you both. Hi, Eternity Eternal, Mama Susan, and Mama Catherine. Mwah! I love you, my dear, and cannot wait to see you in 2 months. And yeah, that's at the fan party in Reno, May 10th through 12th at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort. You should come. All of you should come because it's going to be fun. Vanessa, how are you? T-Bone, just another guy named Harry. Good to see you all. Noble Patrick and Michael Fontaine, thank you for joining us. I.W. David Page, Quantum Momentum, good to have you back. And who else is here? Let's say hello to Paramarv and me, Wyken. Nice to have you both here. Scrolling on down, there's Tim Mothman and his goatee. Millennium, my man, thank you for joining us. Millennium will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Continuing on with our roll call, Kriya Vine, welcome to SOR Chat. And who else is here? Let us say hello to Richard Elmore, Digger Dog, Tokeland, and purple-haired Pixie Lara. We love you all. Thank you for joining us. Continuing on with our roll call, who else is here? Oh, it's little Polly Arduini. How are you? I see you, Polly. Are you back from Mexico yet? There's Susan from Indiana on Facebook. Oh, sweet Polly Pie. One of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. I love him. Chris. Teen, nice to see you. And who else is here? Scrolling on down. Entity Voices Paranormal Investigations. Welcome to SOR Chat. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like, please. We'd appreciate that. Scrolling on down. Parasolo. Good to see you. And who else do we have here? Ozzy, Canna Chef Chris. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Vanessa, thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call. There's Abbott Hoffman. SJ, good to see you both. And who else is joining us? Sandra Kincaid, we love you. I got to ask you more questions about my CPAP. So I'm going to call you the next day or two. Nina Williams, good to see you. Hi, James Horn. It's been a while. And who else do we have here? And we have, scrolling on down. Oh, Paulie, you're still in Mexico. That's right. Cool. And let's see here. Phyllis Boucher Perry, nice to have you here. And Rocket Rory, good to see you. All right, let's get the radio side started. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. We're getting into the paranormal with author, researcher, and poet Amelia Cotter. We will get to her momentarily. We are in roll call here, waiting for Bill WD-40 to come on in and lube us up for tonight's show. And JBD, how are you? Good to see you. Want to remind everybody, the Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And thank you for helping us on out. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can shop at our store and actually be proud to wear our clothing out in public. So go check it on out at spacedoutradio.com. Good morning, Stephen Finnegan. How are you? There's Bill WD-40 lubing us up as we speak. You always want to go into a show nice and smooth. No rigidness. That's why we lube up. All right, do me a favor, everybody. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a fun show planned tonight. We're going to get into some ghost stories, maybe a little cryptids. Author and poet Amelia Cotter is here. We'll bring her in momentarily. Then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing has another spooky story. Then I'm going to do something different. Travis Willier-Boostus could not make it for the cryptid report tonight. So what I'm going to do is, if you're around in hour number 3 still listening in and you are in our YouTube chat room, I am going to open up that chat room and take your questions. Anything you guys want to talk about, I will answer those questions. So save your questions for hour number 3. All right, let's get right to it, shall we? Our guest tonight, Amelia Cotter, is an author, poet, researcher, and storyteller with a special interest in the supernatural, history, and folklore. She's got some great books out that you want to add to your collection. You can find them on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Where the Party Never Ended, Ghosts of the Old Baraboo Inn, This House, The True Story of a Girl and a Ghost, Maryland Ghosts, Paranormal Encounters in a Free State, and the children's book, Breakfast with Bigfoot. She also has a poetry collection, aptly titled, I never use the word aptly, so I'm going to use that one here, aptly titled Apparitions. Amelia Cotter, it's been a couple of years since we've had you back on Spaced Out Radio, Amelia, but we're glad to have you here. Get you to unmute yourself. And how are you? How you been?
Good. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm wide awake for this show. So I want some ghost stories. I want some ghost stories tonight because you're somebody, I've known you for a number of years now, and I had you on, I think about 3-4 years ago, regarding talking about ghosts. And now we get to do it again because you are really making yourself a name in the paranormal writing world.
Shucks. Thank you.
How do you do it? How do you do it?
Oh, God. I'm in year 15 of slogging away at all this stuff and trying to navigate the world of social media and TikTok and influencers and everything, and it's not easy. But I don't know. That's such a good question. I don't know. I stay true to myself. I stay authentic, if that means anything, but I, I stay on brand. I stick to what I'm good at, which is storytelling, and I stay away from, I don't know, paradrama. Is that a good
I,
answer?
I love that answer. I love that. I love that answer. Why do you love the paranormal so much? What makes it so much fun to write
Oh,
about this?
wow.
Because there's so many people who write about these topics, but you have really excelled at it.
Thank you. I have always loved the paranormal. I mean, just since I was a little kid, even before I could read, in the library in the occult section at the time, just always being fascinated with, the strange and the unusual. And I still get a lot of joy and thrills out of it, even though it's part of my professional life. It's also that, like you said, there's a lot of people out there doing it now, and you can find your way to a lot of bad information and bad storytelling and things like that. But there's still a lot of really cool, fresh, interesting, insightful things going on, and I really love being a part of that. And I love watching other up and coming new people bring in new ideas. And for me, I just love ghost stories. So I've always loved ghost stories. When I go places, I don't tell people that I'm into the paranormal. I don't spill the beans. I always act like I like to have the beginner's mind sort of everywhere I travel, and just sort of find out, on the low, if a place is haunted, or if somebody has a ghost story, and if they're willing to share it, or if they have any weird experiences. I love to hear what people have gone through, and some of the profound experiences that people have had. And again, more so on the side of like personal stories rather than things that people experienced while ghost hunting and stuff that happened with equipment and all that kind of stuff, but just literally like, the things that go bump in the night.
I got to ask you, because one of the things I respect of your writing is the fact that you, when you are writing, you are looking for stories that have never been told. And too many times in the paranormal, we see people writing about the same stories, the ghosts of Gettysburg, the, Waverly Hills, and the ghosts of Alcatraz, or the ghosts of the Alamo, or something. And those are great topics, don't get me wrong. But you seem to be searching for those that have been untouched for a while. Why do you decide to go that route over doing the same locations that everybody else seems to do?
Sure. So there's a couple of reasons. On the practical professional side of things, it's nice for me to have something that I can dive into that feels like it's all my own. So I'm from Maryland, which has been extensively written and researched about. I live in Chicago, which has been extensively written and researched about by some of the best, minds in the paranormal. And I'm always looking for something that is unique, like a research point that can be something that I can sort of put my little flag into and say, like, this was my contribution in this world. And also, I think it just goes back to my interest in really genuinely getting to the heart of people's experiences. So I'm fascinated by all the same places as well. I love Gettysburg, and I love all the stories, but I do like to find out. I like to dig deeper. So there's the history, there's the folklore and the legends about a place, and then there's people's personal paranormal encounters. And sometimes those things work together in tandem, and sometimes they don't. And I just like to find out what people's emotional connections are. Growing up in Maryland, especially, like, this was prior to the paranormal being this mainstream popular interest. And so you would really connect to history through ghost stories. So you're connecting to people of the past, historic places, these neat rundown places that we have around us, or these really well-maintained historic sites, whatever the case may be. And just that sort of like, you're transcending the mundane, right? By being interested in something that's beyond whatever your little suburban life is. But you're also going into what is the mundane, like who lived in this abandoned house that's supposed to be haunted? What was their life like? What is their story? So I like to clear through the clutter of all of that and all of the like bombastic, like paranormal gobbledygook that we have now that's all very like razzle dazzle and just get to the stories.
I love it too, because to me, the best stories out there are the untold ones. And there's so many, even in a big city like Chicago or Maryland, or, the state of Maryland, or Pennsylvania, or anywhere across Canada, wherever you may be, there's a lot of really cool stories in big cities that have never been told.
Right.
But it's the smaller towns, in my opinion, and I'm curious how you feel about this, that really have these local legends that nobody has ever heard of, that really, really tell a tale. And as those small towns over time die off, that's where, or new people move in from the cities going back to the small towns, people forget about those legends. They aren't shared anymore. The stories aren't told.
It's interesting you say that, because a couple things pop into my mind. One, there's like this resurgence now I've seen on like TikTok of people telling some stories that were famous here in Chicago, for instance, 20, 25 years ago. And now there's this resurgence of an interest in this one particular legend or haunted spot. And people are telling it like it's the first time anybody's ever heard this, which is kind of fun. It's neat for people to come back to it and everything. The other thing is like, I grew up in Bel Air, Maryland. So it was a little tiny place full of our own little, hometown, homegrown stories and legends and rites of passage and stuff for teenagers to go to this cemetery and that abandoned farm and all this kind of stuff. And as I grew up and also expanded my research, one thing I've discovered is that a lot of these small town legends do exist in all these other places, which is really cool. We know about things like crybaby bridges and stuff, or like women in white, like that kind of stuff. Like even creatures, so cryptids and other types of things. We've got the Jersey Devil in New Jersey, and there's the Snallygaster in Maryland, and then there's the Piasaw bird out here in Southern Illinois, and they're very similar to each other, and just so like really cool things. So you see these points of continuity, goat man legends and stuff like that. So that I find exciting. And then there's the other stories that will die out, like you're saying, some things that happened like when we were teenagers that were relevant to us and our generation specifically. So a place on like old St. Mary's Church Road or whatever in Bel Air, where the story was fresh in our minds of somebody having experienced a certain ghost there. And that's a story that we all pass around to this day. That's just very much contained to like even a particular friend group, and what will happen to that story or whatever happened to that spirit, or, those are the questions that I have too. It calls up, bigger questions too about like the relevance of ghost stories in our lives and like how we connect with spirits. Like, it just, to me, it's like, it's an ever expanding world of more and more questions, kind of.
It really is expansive. I mean, what is it about legends and folklore that just makes the story so much better?
I think it's like that universality of them. So I assume it's 11 p.m. So I assume universality is the word. I think it's the universal nature of like the cautionary tale, right? Like all humans, since even before probably we were organizing language on paper, we were sitting around the campfire telling stories, right? So this is how we relate to the world. That's how religion started. We're all sort of, we're wired to see ourselves in stories as well, and to see ourselves in each other's stories. So, I think it goes back to that sort of like our primal nature is to be fascinated by spooky stories. And now today, I mean, this happens in every decade, every generation. There's a new exciting thing. In the 50s, it was UFOs. In the 70s, it was haunted houses in the 80s. It was the satanic panic, all that kind of stuff. Now we have social media. So there's this huge saturation and fascination with all sorts of things in the paranormal, but we're all really obsessed about like demons and invisible forces right now, which really makes sense because what are we going through in the world? All these different invisible forces like COVID and whatever else that are coming to get us. So a lot of times taking a step back too and looking at those patterns of what people are interested kind of reflects something that's going on in the bigger picture, and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Oh, I totally know what you mean. But what makes a good story? Because every town has their local haunt, their local legend. What makes for a good story that can really rattle the bones?
That's such a good question. I always appreciate stories that have a cohesive, like, beginning, middle, and end. If you've ever heard somebody tell a good story, they set the scene. So they talk about the setting, and I'm there for the details. I'm down to like what you ate for breakfast and what the weather was, all of that stuff, what shoes you had on, everything. But sort of talking through like the finer points of like, this is how I felt that day. This is what led up to it happening. This was the actual incident. This is how I felt about the incident and how it affected me. This was the outcome. It's been years since it happened, or it just happened yesterday, and this is where I'm at with it. I feel like those are the literal parts that make a good story. I've worked with some people as far as just from like my author brain, just coaching people through the actual telling of their stories, with ghost stories, or even really any type of story when people are trying to communicate. Like, not everybody has like this gift of excellent communication, and trying to convey your story and the emotions and the timeline of it is not easy for everybody. It doesn't come easily to everybody. It's a skill. And especially if an incident was traumatic or really spooky or really profound, people could be at a loss for words, etc. But in general, there's also that it factor. I like stories that are involved. I like stories where something crazy just happened, but nothing necessarily got tied up neatly with a bow at the end. It was a mystery. Like, life's mysteries are exciting. And we can sort of leave them at that. I personally, you didn't ask, but I'll tell you, I don't like stories when people are like, and then we got a hit on the K2. And then our little beepy meter went all the way to the red, and it stayed at the red. And then I asked this question, and then it went to red again. And then our flashlight went on and off. And I'm like, that's not really a story, and it's not really an experience. And it's valid that people obviously, like, they felt really excited about it in the moment. And I totally know what that feels like when you're there and all your gadgets are lighting up. But it's not really talking about like the heart of your like connection to this incident, or your connection to this potential spirit. Something is causing this to happen, and just reacting to, like, if you get into a car accident, you don't talk about the car. Oh my God, the car was crazy. I mean, you might, I don't know, but like, you would talk about like how you felt and what your injuries were. And if you had to like, be cut from the jaws of life to get out of the car. And if you had to run and rescue somebody, and you wouldn't be like, you wouldn't talk about the fine details of like what the fire trucks looked like when they pulled up or anything. So to me, it's like those details aren't as important as like the central emotional experience, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. This is my 11:30 p.m. brain.
No, but that makes a lot of sense though, because one of the things that a lot of people don't do is paint a picture. Like us being on the radio and you being a writer, we kind of have that same thing going on, where if we don't paint a picture, the audience isn't going to get what we're seeing or what we're trying to explain. And I think, painting a picture is such a lost art today with everything, especially in writing and journalism and authoring and poetry, that it's a hard concept. Like, I think I'm pretty good at it, but in my autobiography that I've been writing for the last 8 years, that still isn't done. Okay. I still look back and I'm like, come on, man, you got to paint a picture better than that. I mean, it's just the way
right.
it is.
It's like making sure that you flesh it out thoroughly, but also like less is more, especially like in the actual world of storytelling. And like, again, like every person off the street isn't going to necessarily be able to do that. So I always want to be really careful and attentive when I listen to people's stories or when they tell me things. Sometimes people tell me stuff like, well, I don't think my story's scary enough for what you're looking for. And I'm like, well, what happened? They're like, oh, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. I heard some footsteps, or, oh, I don't know, like I heard a knock. And I'm like, sometimes those experiences those can be life-changing experiences. If you heard just a few little footsteps, most paranormal encounters don't necessarily involve things flying, around the room and everything like in Poltergeist. So, if that was what you experienced and it had like this profound effect on you, to me, that's really cool. I've had experiences like that where I've heard just a sound and you're like, you get that thrill. It's very thrilling. So trying to draw people's feelings out of them about what happened to me is like what I want to focus on. And I think that's therapeutic for people also. I think especially in the world of the paranormal, it's hard for people to really talk about their experiences because obviously skeptics are not interested in hearing stories. And then I've also found this is changing now. This is shifting, but there was a good chunk of time in the last 10 years or so where other people who were interested in the paranormal were also real jerks to each other about what was possible and scientific and real or not. And I feel like there's more empathy now than there used to be about people just talking about what happened to them. There's also like this intersectionality now between like Bigfoot and UFOs and ghosts, whereas like years ago, the ghost people didn't associate with the Bigfoot people and the alien, UFO people were a whole other group and everybody made fun of each other. Now it's like, gosh, all these things seem to happen concurrently. And now we have elves, right? And gnomes. So it's really neat to like continue to like make it more of like a comfortable, space for each other. We should be making this comfortable space for people to feel like they can tell their tales.
Absolutely. Amelia Cotter is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We just have over 90 seconds here before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. For you, in all the paranormal stories you've even written a children's book about Bigfoot. Okay. As much as you love these topics, do you have a favorite? Is it ghosts? Is it cryptids? Or are you delving into more different categories?
That's such a good question that it's impossible for me to answer in 90 seconds, but I'm getting more into UFO encounters, not on my own research, but just sort of in my listening and sort of, I'm starting to get more comfortable and adjacent to that, but I'm still really sticking with the good old fashioned classic ghost stories and paranormal encounters.
Awesome. And do you like the cases that are more about hauntings, or do you like cases that maybe involve a little bit of tragedy or cases that have a little bit of a horror aspect to them?
Wow. I don't know that I have a preference. I would say good old classic hauntings appeal to me, but I'm up for anything.
Why not?
Right?
Why not?
Nothing's off the table.
I got to think about that for a second, because it's like, you're up for anything. That's a lot of hauntings. It's a lot of ghosts.
That is a lot of ghosts.
I love it.
I don't have enough hours in the day for all that writing.
Amelia, when we return on Spaced Out Radio with Amelia Cotter, her website, ameliacotter.com, we're going to get into some of her writings, including the old Baraboo Inn, Breakfast with Bigfoot, Maryland Ghosts, and much more. It's a paranormal night here on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to have some fun. I want you to stick around because ghost stories are coming up next. Perfect. We are clear. And just a reminder, our YouTube audience can hear us. That's a nice tissue.
And they can see me blowing my nose. Hi, everyone.
Hey, if you need, I always got some to blow the nose here, right there. You know, you never know when you're going to have some nose goblins all of a sudden want to come out and talk.
I'm haunted by nose goblins personally. So
I know that feeling. All right. There we go. There we go. How you doing down there, Dirty Filth? One of these days he'll unmute.
It's just safer that way, Dave.
I know. Let's see what you're drawing tonight.
With the recent UFO report that nobody's happy with.
Going right into the vicious cycle here, eh?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Dirty's
pretty yesterday's one. It was,
cool.
The volcano last on the 7th. Apparently there's a portal that appeared on the live stream. So I had to draw a little UFO zipping out of it.
Right. Ooh, that's cool.
It looks like a blob until I've inked it all up and made it
That's
nice.
Cool.
Yes. He's Mr. Talented around here. The rest of us try and keep up. It never works. Never works. Tim Mothman, thank you for posting Amelia's website. Appreciate that.
I noticed everybody was all upset with that report. So I figured, why not have a gray alien and a little reptile kind of making a joke at everybody else's expense.
Super cool. I heard that Len Dorman is out there watching. Okay. I know Len.
Hi, Len.
Len only comes in for the paranormal stuff. Yeah. But that's okay. That's okay. We like it when he's here. Hello to everybody watching on X right now. Hope you're enjoying yourself.
Oops. I forgot the yellow of the reptilian's eyeballs.
Well, that's just a make or break right there, dude.
Yeah, it's important to get these details correct. Otherwise, these guys phone me at night. On the plus side, Dave, I ordered some calendars. They got lost in the mail. And then I inquired about it. And the calendar company sent me a return order, expedited. And then I ended up getting both sets of calendars.
Nice.
Getting two birds stoned at once.
You know, the 2022-23 calendars are over now, though, right?
Yeah, we got the 2024 guys out.
No. Beautiful. Hi, Dragonfly. Hi, Warden Dragon. And where are we here?
I appreciate the reptilian nipple details.
Oh, yeah, I got to have the nipples.
Mm-hmm. Big debate that Nicole Sackich and Grant Cameron have had is, do alien grays have nipples?
Huh.
My alien greys have nipples.
No, nobody has ever seen an alien gray with nipples. David Hayworth, how you doing? Apparently that's important in the cycle of trying to find aliens here. Big thank you to T-Bone and Stephen Finnegan for the great super chats. Very much appreciate your love. And thank you to everybody for tuning us on in. If you're new on Twitter or X, hit follow. If you're on YouTube, do us a favor, hit subscribe and ring that bell. We'd appreciate it. And here we go with the next half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate you tuning us on in, especially when we're talking ghosts like we are tonight. Want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go with author, poet, Amelia Cotter. She is an amazing author. Her website, ameliacotter.com, where you can find all of her books, like Where the Party Never Ended, Goes to the Old Baraboo Inn. We're going to talk about that one here momentarily. Amelia, welcome back.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So welcome to be here. Let's get right into it. I love a good bar story. Okay, I used to hang out at a couple of haunted bars, one on Vancouver Island, where they still had the original posts where you would tie your horse up in front. Yeah, that was a cool place, haunted as anything. And, you know, there's a lot of really good stories that happen in bars and inns, because an inn always had a bar, and usually it led to gunfights and a lot of violence after a few drinks and, you know, illegal poker games and wild women. Tell us about the Baraboo.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. So the old Baraboo Inn is located in Baraboo, Wisconsin. It's about 3 hours north of us here in Chicago. Baraboo is famous for being the hometown and winter quarters of the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. It's a really neat small town with a lot of haunted history. The old Baraboo Inn popped up around in the mid-1860s. So Baraboo was a hub of the Wisconsin brewing industry. We always think of like Milwaukee, but there were a lot of small towns around Wisconsin that were heavily involved in brewing. And Baraboo was one of those places. A lot of German settlers came and opened breweries. The old Baraboo Inn was located on the south side of town, which was like the seedy brewery area. So it had previously been a private home. And then when all these breweries started popping up, the respectable tenants moved out, and the Benders, Anna and George Bender, moved in and operated a brewery there. And we're in partnership with multiple breweries in the area. And later in the 1870s opened, this was after George died, but Anna operated the Bender Hotel. So it became a boarding house. So the bottom level of the building has always been used as, or I should say the first floor of the building has always been used as some type of bar, restaurant, brewery, billiard hall type of place. And then the upper floor, the upper level, like a boarding house type of area. The train depot opened up directly across the street from there in the 1870s as well. This was a train route that went from back and forth from like Chicago to Minneapolis. So lots of thirsty passengers and interesting folks, kind of transient people moving through the town. So the old Baraboo Inn, of course, was also rumored to be a place where there was a brothel. And this carried on into the Prohibition era as well. There were multiple places in Baraboo that were busted, including the old Baraboo Inn for illicit brewing, illicit making of alcohol during the Prohibition era. And of course, there were gunfights and things like that allegedly as well. So there's nothing on the historic record about that, but there are bullet holes in the side of the building. And it became the old Baraboo Inns. The name stuck after the 1960s when it was bought by the Dombrowskis. There will be a quiz on this later, by the way. But it just has a really neat history of basically what you said in a nutshell. So being a place where everybody was welcome, no matter what kind of person they were. This was a place where truly the party never ended, which is where the title came from. This is like how they refer to it there. And so there's a lot of spirit activity. And what's really interesting about the old Baraboo Inn spirit activity is that it's very interactional and it's very playful and it's very intelligent. So there is some dark stuff there, like in the basement. So there were basement tunnels that led to the breweries that were adjacent to the building. So these weren't like spooky. These weren't spooky Prohibition tunnels, although later it's assumed and supposed that they were used for that purpose. People were supposed to have had fights and arguments down there, and common stories about brothels, have to do with that type of violence, sexual violence, forced abortions and stuff like that. So a lot of brothels, it's important to remember too, were run by women, and people really did have a good time there, including the women who worked there. So we hear a lot of these terrible stories, and we always have this assumption that these brothels were these terrible places full of like violence and pestilence and all this kind of stuff. But they really were like safe places in a lot of cases for women to work, repeat customers who cared about, each other and stuff like that. And so it wasn't all like gloom and doom. And you can kind of feel that vibe there. So presumably some weird and terrible things did happen there, and those vibes do exist in parts of the building. But mostly there's sort of this warm, friendly party vibe. People have had a lot of interactions with spirits that were joking with them, like kind of taunting them, but in like a joking way, pulling their hair, pulling on their zipper. So women feeling taunted by male spirits, men feeling taunted by female spirits. The different owners throughout the years that sort of watch over the place. So Anna Bender died there just of natural causes. And her spirit has been experienced on multiple occasions. One time there was like a Budweiser delivery guy there that was just like shooting the shit with BC, who also, he passed away last year. But he was the most recent owner. And Bender standing in front of him and just reported that he saw a spirit of a woman who looked like she was from Little House on the Prairie. And then like the Dombrowski. So John Dombrowski died in the
And we have her frozen up here. Gotta love technology sometimes. She'll be back here momentarily. Yeah, ghost stories. You ever notice how many happen at a bar?
bowling ball did not hit him, but it did.
Amelia, you cut out
Did
for
I
about
cut out?
for about 15 seconds. John
Yeah.
Dombrowski, take it from there.
Okay. I saw a little swirly, and I was like, I don't know if I should stop or if I should just keep talking. So John Dombrowski died when a bowling ball flew through the window and landed on the dance floor in what is now the dance floor in the front bar area, and it gave him a heart attack. So he wasn't hit with the bowling ball. He was scared to death literally by the bowling ball, although he was up there in years. And this sounds like an urban legend, or it sounds like a story that is just something that somebody made up and thought was funny, but it's actually it's true and verifiable. So in any case, he sort of protects and watches over the place as well, and seems to be happy with things. And even BC, who just passed away last year, seems to be there also. It's just a really neat place. Oh, the other thing that happens there that's really cool. aside from all the usual stuff that happens in haunted bars and inns, is that these little orbs of light, kind of like the little one of the Harry Potter balls, the Quidditch balls or whatever, they look like those like they'll fly through the air and people will see them, and then they'll actually come in contact with people and they'll feel like physical contact with what is like this little ball or orb of light. And I find that fascinating because usually there's obviously controversy about orbs in photos and on video and everything. But to see an orb, I've seen a static orb before that looked kind of like it actually looked like a bowling ball that was made of like TV static fuzz. And so to see those little things, to have multiple people experience that and also claim that, when it made contact with them, it like flew into them and they actually felt it, is pretty cool.
With this bar, I mean, a lot of bars will have patrons that have passed on still coming down to the front of the bar. They'll sit down on a stool and have a drink. Does that still happen there?
Oh yeah. So there's multiple people will often see like just a torso or just a pair of legs walking through the bar. People will feel something sit down next to them or somebody even tug their pants. So it's supposed to be haunted by a lot of children as well, who I guess are believed to be the children of people who worked there that were just kind of hanging around. But there's also Mary, who is supposed to have been a prostitute who died around the turn of the 20th century. And she is seen in a red dress with like a red, kind of a ornate red feather, blonde, beautiful blonde hair. She is sometimes seen, people sometimes see her out of the corner of their eye, or they'll see a full-on apparition and think that there's a woman there dressed in like period. Oh, that's cool that you have a dancer here who's in period clothing. And they're like, no, we don't. And so, yes, it's not uncommon at all for people to have more people also photographs where there's more people in the photo than were actually there at the time. And they're modern looking people too, which is kind of neat. So there's this idea about the old Baraboo Inn. And I know I've heard this about some other places too, kind of like this, that they are sort of like places where people pass through. So spirits may pass through the way that people who were coming back and forth on the train would pass through. And so you see modern looking extra people in these photos that don't look like ghosts from days gone by. They just look like men and women wearing like t-shirts and jeans.
Wow. The periodic clothing and everything. That's amazing. Is there still a lot of noise? Like after the bar closes, is there still a lot of noise around the inn that just seems to happen, whether it's music or dancing or laughing or gunshots?
Yes. So there are a lot of phantom sounds. I've heard them myself as well. When I went there, I had the privilege and the joy and the honor to stay there overnight once, where it was just me and like a couple of my friends and my dog, my Scooby-Doo dog, who immediately had wanted none of it and curled up on the couch and went to sleep all night. But we heard sort of like after everything really quieted down, this sort of like this kind of chatter that arose of like what sounded like women just kind of casually like chit-chatting, like going about doing whatever they were doing, and they're just kind of talking with each other casually. Music is very commonly heard after hours there, especially when the inn experienced a devastating fire in the late 80s, and it wasn't reopened until the early 2000s. So in the late 90s, when they were renovating it, is when a lot of the activity, started to kind of come to the right. And so hearing music and like that kind of saloon vibe type of piano music and stuff was something that the construction workers and BC, who was the owner, that they would hear and think to themselves, where's that music coming from? They weren't, when BC first bought it, he wasn't thinking about, wow, I'm going to buy this awesome haunted bar, right? He didn't think about ghosts at all until he started hearing stuff like that. But I've heard even just now from the people who operate it, Shelley, his sister, who continues to work there, that every night there's voices, there's dancing, there's laughter, and then the occasional sound of fighting or gunshots, like you said, as well as seeing figures outside, sort of like in the street or across the street. So, but feeling like it's all kind of connected to the place. And these
That's
figures are usually Native Americans. So they're not just like folks walking down the street. Like they appear to be spirits of some of the local tribal peoples who were displaced, of course, during all of this.
I don't usually read comments or questions from our audience till hour 2, but this one's kind of perpendicular to what we're saying here. Tickled in the chat room says, when I was running a bar, we had a ghost that would make his presence. It was pretty cool, but also made a few employees quit. You know, I mean, that's a chance you take. I mean, can you imagine going through a job interview at a bar? So what do you believe about the paranormal? You know, I mean, then all of a sudden it's like, I don't believe in ghosts. Okay, well, that's
when I know we're going to talk about Maryland stuff later, but when I worked at the National Museum of Civil War Medicine in Frederick, Maryland, which awesome place to visit, and also awesome haunted location. But that was a place where ghost stories were a part of daily work life, and you kind of needed to be aware of it and on board with it in order to function there at all. It was very much like, do you believe in ghosts? Because we're going to talk about ghosts a lot, and chances are you're going to encounter one. So you can think it's BS if you want to, but give it a few weeks and you're going to meet the ghosts here. So, and I worked there in college. So that was the first place I really saw where people were just like, oh yeah, by the way, it's haunted. But that was very much the attitude.
Yeah, it's amazing how that kind of plays out. You know, I mean, having to warn people, it's like the local museum where I do our ghost tour. They have a bunch of volunteers who come in there, especially students needing volunteer hours for graduation. And they'll talk about, well, what do you know about the paranormal? And they all act like, oh, no, that stuff doesn't bother me, or that stuff doesn't exist. And then they have the experience.
Right. Or they're told not to say that stuff to the public when you know that things got to be bussing after dark, right? Like they're seeing all kinds of wacky stuff, but they've got to like keep their lips pursed. But I do, you know, I love a good story, referring back to what you were talking about earlier with like what makes a good story. I do love a good story where somebody who was either previously like a non-believer or just never really gave it any thought at all has that experience, and then they're like a changed man or a changed woman.
We got about 7 minutes to go here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Amelia Cotter is our guest tonight. You also have a great book out called This House, the true story of a girl and a ghost. A lot of children tend to chat with ghosts, you know, and a lot of parents will sit there and say, oh, that's just your imagination. How did you learn about this story?
So this house is an account of my own personal experiences. Now, I do have a recollection of my first paranormal experience when I was about 2 or 3 years old, not connected to this, but I don't think I was a kid that talked to spirits. If I had an invisible friend, I have no memory of it, which happens a lot with kids. They might go through something like that, and then later when their brains change and wrinkles grow and whatever, like they have no recollection of it. But this happened, and I actually have a little object from there for those who are watching. This happened when I was 11 and 12 years old. I explored this abandoned house that was near where my dad worked. My dad worked at the Manor Tavern restaurant, which is still located in Moncton, Maryland. And there are several beautiful abandoned houses still in the area directly adjacent to the restaurant. This one is no longer there, but at the time, it was called Walter's House, local legend. My parents let me explore it. So I went in as a little baby ghost hunter with my little tape recorder and my flashlight and stuff. I would go in during the day and at night because we'd pick my dad up late from work. And so I would tromp around inside of this house. And I took this jar before they tore the house down. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I was 12. So, But I'm actually glad I have it because I've kept this my whole life. I have some other objects from the house as well. But it was the first time and place that I ever saw a full body apparition. The only time. I've had some crazy things happen, but this was the only time I ever saw a ghost, a fully fleshed out ghost, like standing in front of me, like you and me are right now. So,
wow, what was that like?
So it was awesome. I am blessed that I came from experience that wasn't like horrifying and traumatic and changed my life in a way that I was, scarred for life by this experience. It was awesome. Every second of it was just exhilarating to me. Little Amelia growing up, right, in my little tiny town, my little tiny world, lonely girl. I had really wanted to see the ghost. I was excited about the house. I was fantasizing about what it was like. This house was built in the 1700s, and I always just, who lived here every day? What did they do every day? Like, what was their world? So this ghost, all of the ghosts were collectively named Walter, whether they were male, female, whatever. They just referred affectionately to the hauntings on the grounds as Walter. So I did too. And I wanted to see this ghost called Walter that was supposed to have been seen inside of the house. And so I kept saying, I remember saying it out loud too, I really want to see the ghost. And one day I did. So we were pulling away from the house after a daytime visit with my friend Graham from my 6th grade English class, because I did a presentation about ghosts for my English class. And I looked up into the attic windows, and those are featured on the cover of the book. And leaning out of one of the windows was like a boy or a young man, teenager-ish sized person that was completely white from head to toe. So, or I guess from head to midsection where I could see him. So he's completely white, hair, clothing, skin, no face. So just a kind of a blank, round face, nothing, not like a terrifying vacuum or anything, but just like a blank face. But I could see the folds of his clothing and bunched, gathered at the cuffs and suspenders. It was like different shades of like white and gray, but just completely white. And his head turned very mechanically like a doll almost. As we were pulling away, he just sort of watched us. And I looked directly into his, face. And I remember, even though we were in a car from the road, we were very close, but we were still so close, but so far away. Right. But I was in the car, and I felt this like swirling static electricity sensation in my stomach, as if like something inside of me was turned on. It's just a feeling that you get when you know that you're in the presence of something. And it was awesome. So we kept going. My mom stopped the car because she could tell that Graham and I had seen something. And she asked if we wanted to go back and like, should I back up? Should we look again? And I remember saying no. In my 11-year-old wisdom, I was like, if he's still there, I think it'll scare me. And if he's gone, I think I'll second guess myself of what I saw, but I know what I saw. And I just want that to be in my memory forever, which it is. And Graham described the exact same thing to me. And I felt very honored that I saw this ghost. It was a very cool experience.
It's one that you hope will happen again, and hopefully it's just as peaceful. Did you feel that this was an experience that was going to be once in a lifetime, or do you still wish it would happen again?
I feel like it was definitely one of those things that I was open to at that time. I had that wonderful mentality when you're a kid that like everything in life is in front of you and it's all awesome and it's all exciting. And as I've gotten older, I think I'm simultaneously more open-minded to different types of paranormal and spiritual activity now, but I'm also more anxious about it. I'm more aware of my own mortality. And I'm also aware in a weird sense of like how much it must suck to be a ghost. And so it's hard for me to get excited about seeing a ghost. I think I have that mental block in some ways that some people have. To where maybe I would be susceptible otherwise, but I'm stopping myself from having some of these bigger experiences. So in a way, yes. And in a way, I'm okay with maybe not seeing that stuff, but it hasn't stopped me from having these other weird experiences. So
All right. Well, we got Amelia Cotter for one more hour here on Spaced Out Radio as we continue on talking paranormal. It will be Ghosts of Maryland when we return, and some of your questions as well. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Stay tuned, everybody. All right, we are clear. And let's see what Dirty Filth has for us here. Dirty, we're going to turn it over to you, my man. Amelia, we got 5.5 minutes.
okie dokie.
5.5 minutes.
Swamp gas. I love it.
It's a drone, not a TR-3B. Swamp gas. Don't believe. Everybody's all grumpy about it, so maybe I'll just mail the drawing to the Arrow guys. Maybe they'll give me a tour of the building. Into the labyrinth of some sort. My gargoyle is out of control, by the way. Keeps bumping into the camera here. Thanks, Lovey. I appreciate it.
Do you start with a light sketch and then you do the watercolor over it and then you do the ink on top?
Yeah, I do. I got a sketchbook full of ideas, and then I just do the good old 4H pencil.
Wow.
And I just do a real light sketch because then I can paint all over it, and then when I ink it up, it looks better because it looks like garbage when it just starts out. So, and I usually just use the like 4x9 or whatever it is, and then I can stick them in frames and put them on my walls, and it looks nice.
That's very cool.
I have a question. I forget the name of it. 1 second here. I have it written down somewhere. Paper in here. That's what it's called. Have you heard of Dudleytown?
Dudleytown. Yes. It rings a bell.
I had a friend that was talking about it with me once, and we were up late night just shooting breeze, and he never didn't think he was a paranormal guy or anything. I just kind of
like,
hey Rigger, have you seen a UFO or an alien? He's like, actually, you ever heard of Dudleytown? And he gave me this big long-winded speech about it. Anyway, sorry.
In Connecticut, right?
Yes.
So I have a friend who lives in Connecticut, and I mean, not that it means anything and everything, but she and her mom had a really interesting UFO experience when she was younger. They live in Ellington. I don't know if that's close to, I mean, I guess everything in Connecticut is close to each other, but yeah, I'm going to a wedding. I'm going to her wedding in June. Maybe I'll make a little side trip there.
A little side quest?
The side quest. It's cool that you got this wedding going on, but I got to hit up my ghost town.
Okay, bye everybody. Happy being married. Got to see the ghost. Bye.
See, I'm off to Dudleytown, and she was never seen again.
Oh, at least make sure you're doing it on live Facebook things so that you know. I always say that's what needs to happen with like a Bigfoot or a dog man. Bigfoot needs to come out of the trees and like break somebody in half while he's filming himself. Or a dog man just needs to jump out and shred somebody to bits. Someone has to take that bullet.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, it's for science. So
for science,
you're kind of being an organ donor.
That's true. I know. I mean, there's people who would do it. You know, there's people willing to go on the one-way trip to Mars. I'm sure there's people willing to get torn up by Bigfoot. I feel like Bigfoot deliberately evades the opportunity to tear someone up on film. That should be studied.
You're kind of sneaky. I remember reading a thing about a guy and his wife were hiking, and it was either him or his wife got attacked by a cougar, and then this Bigfoot came out of nowhere and grabbed the thing. Yes, Blob is okay, Cosmic Joe. She's downstairs piled on top of Mrs. Filth. Anyway, this Bigfoot came out of nowhere, apparently picked the cougar up, pulled it off the person, and then like broke its back, threw it away, and then sauntered back into the bush.
My God.
I can't remember where the hell I heard that, but
I've
it's pretty neato.
I've heard stories like that where Bigfoot has done some like benevolent thing like that to help someone and then just kind of sauntered away, like he said.
I feel like Bigfoot's the type of guy that would steal pies off your windowsill.
Oh,
Yes.
totally.
100.
Totally.
Make sure he gets that real spooky, like make sure he's lingers in the window long enough so that he can scare the heck out of somebody.
And he winks at you.
All right. Dirty Filth, another great piece of work. Thank you for your
night,
great
everybody.
artistry. We love you. And go from there. And want to remind everybody that in hour number 3, we're talking cryptids and UFOs, and I want your questions after Steve Stockton's Among the Missing. So make sure you put them all in capital letters for me, and we'll do that at that time for that. All right. Maybe I'll even send the link over. So if you want to join me and tell me your spooky story, we could do that. Thank you to Stephen and T-Bone for the great super chat. Very much appreciate your great support. Don't forget, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. There's no ugly swag there, people. Nothing ugly. Yeah, including Science Blob t-shirts. Go get them. All right, here we go, everybody. Sit back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears nightly. If you're listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, thank you for tuning in. And you can listen to us digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. You can join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. NACRE. NACRE is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go again, hour 2. We have her for one more hour here. Amelia Cotter. You can find all of her books on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Her website, ameliacotter.com. Amelia, thank you so much for being up late with us tonight.
Thank you for having me on.
I want to get into a great book that you did recently, Ghosts of Maryland. This is one that has a lot of really cool stories in it. It comes from your hometown state, even though you live in the Chicago area now. And it's got very, very great ratings from everybody. I mean, you've not only done that one, you've done a Maryland Ghosts as well. And I'm just curious, you know, when you were touring around your former home state, were you surprised how haunted it was?
No, just because growing up, I knew it was haunted because I was interested in it from a young age. And the minute I got to high school and people were whispering in the hallways about all the different cool places that they would drive to after dark, I was there for it. I knew that there was this treasure trove of places, and my family was very, it wasn't the focal point, but at some point somebody would tell a ghost story. So I knew there were these great places, and I had lived in Chicago for a time when I went to write the book, and I thought this is going to be my real like nostalgic sort of like homage to my home state. I think I didn't appreciate it enough when I was growing up there. Growing up, you like, I want to get the hell out of, Harford County, Maryland. But now I have a, real like romantic feeling about it, and how lucky I was to have access also to all these haunted places, because Chicago is exceptionally haunted as well, but it's not as easy to just waltz up to the front door of an abandoned house and go inside as it was back when we were youngsters. So lots and lots of appreciation for that.
You're in one of your books, you write about, everything from apparition photos to restless spirits in Hood College. I mean, Maryland is an old state. How did you choose which ones to put in the books?
That's a really good question, because I did, there's stuff that got left out as well. So I tried to, I made a map of all the places that I wanted to include. I wanted to make sure, so Maryland's tiny state, and it's an interesting shape, but it has these distinctive regions. I wanted to make sure there's 24 counties in Maryland. I knew I wasn't going to get all 24 counties, but I wanted to make sure that I had each region sort of represented, and maybe each a piece of history, a part of history represented, a layer of history from each time period, which I didn't quite nail, but I made a checklist. I collected stories from family, friends, local ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, anybody that was willing to talk to me after I put out a call on like social media for stories. And then I went hunting for things too that I wanted to make sure that I covered. So there's like 35 stories in Maryland ghosts, and still places that never made it in. But it is a pretty good overview of the different types of activity. I wanted to make sure I had some UFO stories, and I tried for cryptid stories, but I didn't have anybody in my circles that I collected a few snippets of here and there of like a Bigfoot or a snarly yowl, which is like our version of Dog Man. And, info about the Goat Man, stuff like that, people's take on that kind of stuff. But the most interesting story, non-ghost story I had some UFO stories in there, as well as some stories about gnomes.
Hold on right there. You got to get to the stories.
We're pulling the brake.
I used to be paranoid of gnomes. Okay. And cryptid author and researcher David Weatherly actually called me up privately one day and said, Dave, we need to have a talk about your fear of gnomes. He goes, you got to stop talking about how much you don't like them. He goes, because gnomes are pretty real.
They can hear you.
And they are very vengeful. Very vengeful.
I find, so last year I did an Astonishing Legends Junk Drawer episode, like a 3-hour episode about gnomes and my personal gnome encounters. And ever since then, gnomes have popped up everywhere in my life. There's been like gnome reboots of old books that I had mentioned. There are just gnomes now. If you go to Michael's or Target for like seasonal stuff, now there's gnomes on all the seasonal fall and spring stuff. I work with volunteers at the Lincoln Park Conservatory, and now they're doing a whole gnome show. It's like everywhere I go, there's gnomes. So always try to speak kindly about the topic. But yes, so there's been like a surge of interest in this ever since like Hellier came out. I feel like people are more adjacent to the idea of like elementals and gnomes and elves and all sorts of fun. The wee folk type of thing has become more okay to talk about, because I used to not tell my gnome stories at paranormal conferences or conventions or storytelling sessions because it was too weird. It was too out there. People came for the ghost stories, and if you waded into that dark territory, they're like, oh, she's nuts. She's talking about gnomes. But I included these stories. The stories that are in Maryland Ghosts came from my Uncle Bernie, Vietnam War veteran, has had a lot of interesting paranormal experiences, but has had multiple encounters seeing these gnome-like beings that also looked very similar to our sort of our cartoon mythological idea of like what a garden gnome kind of looks like. So it's interesting. He had one encounter in Frederick, Maryland along the highway. But he had another encounter in Altoona, Pennsylvania, in a deer blind while he was hunting with a partner. So that story is a little more interesting, even though it didn't happen in Maryland. He was out very early one morning, deer hunting with a friend, and he heard something coming down the trail and put his scope on it on his rifle and saw this little person that he described as looking like a gnome, like a Peter Pan, like David the Gnome, like kind of character, walking down this trail, this remote trail in Altoona, PA. And then when it apparently caught on that it was being watched, it like zipped away down the trail like in a cartoon. And his partner that he was hunting with didn't see it, but he heard the footsteps, right? And then he saw this commotion of leaves, this like swirl, on the trail, and then was like, what the hell was that? And my uncle was like, well, golly, I don't know. But so that was his experience there. And then his other gnome encounter that was in Frederick was similar. He was driving, down the highway and saw, basically saw one on the side of the road and pulled over and looked at it with his binoculars, because he always has all of his equipment with him. So he has like high powered binoculars in the backseat of his car. So and this was in the 90s, so he didn't have like a camera or, digital photography or anything to capture it with, but he watched it. And then when it observed that he could see it, it disappeared into thin air.
Oh my.
And so this is crazy. I'm going to dial it up a notch. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm sitting here waiting.
Right. So I thought this was wild and crazy. I was like, man, this is blowing my mind, right? I'm collecting all these stories for the book, and they're all fascinating, hauntings, this and that, right? So I'm like, man, this is nuts. So I came home one day, and my stack of letters, he wrote me all these handwritten letters about all of his paranormal experiences. The stack of letters that I had under like 10 books on my desk were all scattered all over the floor. And my dog Oscar, who was pitter-pattering around earlier, he had gotten to them, and so he had ripped them up a little bit, and they were still legible. And I thought to myself, like, how did Oscar get these down off of the desk? He's a tiny dog. He's a little rat terrier Basenji dog, so he couldn't have gotten up to the desk to pull them down, and they were under all these books that hadn't moved. But so they were all scattered around, and then he had kind of like nibbled on them. And the one that he had nibbled a whole like clear through was this gnome story. And then a few months later, I'm still writing the book. I'm kind of going through the final stages and editing and all of that. And I would get myself really spooked. I lived by myself at the time. I would really spook myself while I was like typing these stories. And I was putting away laundry one day, and just normal stuff on like a Sunday morning, putting away laundry. I had this little tiny walk-in closet in my studio apartment, and I just saw out of the corner of my eye in the bathroom this little being about yay high just walk through the bathroom into the radiator. So it must have, and it was a 1 second, like a 2-step kind of experience. And it was a little gray being that was dressed like a gnome. So it didn't have like a pointy hat, but it had the rest of the getup, and it was gray. It was like charcoal gray, like gray. It had fallen down a chimney kind of gray. And it just gives me chills when I think about it. And it just kind of had this little waddle, right? And then it was gone. And I had that same static electricity feeling that like sort of went through my bones. And I remember being overwhelmed with emotion. I was actually overwhelmed with anger, which was really interesting. And I remember saying out loud, like, get out of here, which was if you would have asked me what I thought I would say in that situation, I would scream like, get out of here. But I did. And I was like, no, 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 we can't have this. We're going to be lighting candles and chanting and everything else. We can't have you back. It's nice that not nice that you stopped by, but please don't come again. But I just couldn't, I couldn't believe it, and I couldn't fit it. Even now when I talk about it, you know, it's easy for me. I get fuzzy feelings when I think about seeing Walter's ghost. I get really deeply creeped out and weirded out by the fact that I saw this other thing, and it was very fast but very detailed. You know, I can remember exactly what it looked like, and I feel like when I talk about it that ears perk up, right? That something out there is listening. So it's very, very interesting. And so I don't know, this is one of those things I've spent some time in the last year and just in general sort of like trying to discern like what it means, you know, like, is this significant? Is this a message? Am I to do something with all of this? You know, but it was interesting. And then, and the person that I was dating at the time, to add the last layer to it, to the mix, the person I was dating at the time grew up in Mexico City, and his grandmother talked frequently about like the little people that lived in the countryside on the hillside or whatever, and would talk about seeing him being surrounded by something lit. She referred to as like in her terms, like a wee folk type of person, like an Alouche. And so it was just so weird for me that all these things converged in my life at once, having to do with gnomes of all things.
Wow. I mean, I'm freaked out just thinking about that because, you know, I do have gnomes in the studio here. There's about 7 or 8 gnomes in here. I never used to have any, but I'm trying to be one with the gnomes.
Got it, right? I'm going to bring home a gnome from the conservatory. They're selling the gnomes off once these gnomes are all hand painted by like local school children. And so, I'm going to bring one home and have my own little gnome and my little, gotta have a little shrine for them, right? Because you just don't know. But yeah, it's that's one of the times when it's like I could feel that saying, right? When you look into the abyss, it looks back at you, kind of thing. That's just, I feel that very strongly, but I'm not sure why. I don't know what the significance is right now. So that's kind of a journey I'm on.
What is the trickster part of them?
I feel like, this is me. Okay. So again, this is my 12:30 a.m. brain, right? Where I am in my little time zone here. But, we Western Anglo-Saxon Christian folk like tend to see things in terms of like good and evil. Like our like Christian mythology has a lot to do with like, every straight up good and evil, right? And like I feel like throughout most of history, like characters and deities and stuff have had these like multi-layered like personalities and abilities and capacities. And so I think that it's common to have like these types of beings that can be good or bad. They can help you or they can hurt you. They can be tricksters, but they can also help you out in a pinch or whatever. Like gnomes are supposed to protect your lands and your gardens, and they're secretive, so don't mess with them. And that's kind of, I don't know, there's like animals in the animal kingdom that are like that. Like, badgers serve a wonderful purpose in nature, but like they'll also like attack you. So I feel like the trickster nature is, and I'm always like erring on the side of caution when it comes to being superstitious is to just always remain respectful of talking about deities and respectful of talking about elementals and whatever else the case may be, spirits. And it's like, what do I want to say? Like they can kind of tell where you're coming from. Like they can see what's in your heart, or, I don't know how to phrase it. Like dogs know if somebody's nice or if they're hiding something. They know more about people than you do. And I feel like the spirit world is kind of that way too, where it's like, they know what's at the heart of what you're thinking and doing. And so you can't put anything past them, if that makes sense.
All right. Do you have, a lot of people confuse gnomes with little people. that of First Nations, American Indian descent. Do you combine the two?
So that's such a good question. I feel like there's like different names and different ways of looking at them across different cultures, right? Because like just in like our Disney world, just in our Disney mythologies, right? We've got fairies and we've got gnomes, elves, and they're all a little different. But they're all sort of like generically categorized as like elementals. And so I think they are very different. Like something that I find interesting, like when I was looking up, like the Alush, the Mexican, the Mayan version of either an elf or a gnome-like spirit. There's ancient depictions of them in carvings where they are wearing these little pointy hats. It's just, so that's the thing too with us, are humans wired across space and time to sort of have the same type of magical figures in our heads, like in our imagery. And that's the image that we project. So that's what we see. There's theories that like when people see little gray aliens, that they're actually just seeing elementals, that's what gnomes really look like, or elves, or these underground creatures are little green men. But I think, so in that sense, they all are kind of like similar in my mind, like from like from that vantage point. But I think for the purposes of being like culturally sensitive, I think it's important to like draw a distinction between what's what, and understanding that things have different meanings in different cultures and stuff.
I get it. We got 3 minutes to go before we have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Now, do gnomes only come out in the spring and summer, or are they around year-round from your recollection?
Boy, I don't know. I think they're around all the time. Maybe they come out in spring and summer because it's like their seasonal cycle. Maybe they hibernate. I don't know. That's another good question.
Have you ever given a donation to them?
Maybe I should. Maybe that's why maybe that's why they won't leave me alone. I mean, I talk a lot about them. I do about them now, whereas I didn't before. So maybe I'm like this ambassador who's like spreading the word about gnomes. But maybe I should also make some sort of like offering. I don't know.
Because there are peace offerings that you can make them.
Yeah.
With like tiny little jewelry, especially hats. I mean, if you want to go the South Park way, underpants.
Yes, the underpants gnomes. Well, I've got plenty of those. But yeah, I'll think about that too. But I think, I don't know. I think I'm a person who's on the up and up. So I think they know that I'm, I don't know, that I'm a cool chick, maybe. We'll see.
Probably. I could see that. I mean, one thing about gnomes is they seem to be everywhere, right across North America. Iceland is very much a part of it, where they believe so heavily in the gnomes that they are real. They will build highways.
Yeah.
That
Around. Yeah.
Go around their villages and everything. I mean, for other cultures, especially in Europe, they seem to take this gnome thing a lot more serious than we do in North America.
It's interesting, right? I mean, there's something to it. I'm all about erring on the side of caution.
Well, you better get your knitting hands ready then and start making them some clothing.
I should.
That's a donation.
Tiny hats.
Yeah, and a friend of mine, First Nations friend of mine, did that because his mom was having things go missing, and they had little people around who are tricksters, and he actually made a bunch of trinkets and hats and everything for them, and they sat downstairs and waited. And all of a sudden, upstairs, they heard the pitter patter of little footprints. Like,
yeah,
and
really?
when they went upstairs, all the trinkets were gone, and his mom's jewelry and her keys were back.
Wow.
Yeah. Very interesting. Amelia, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we only have 1/2 hour left with you. on Spaced Out Radio. And we are having a great time with author and poet Amelia Cotter. AmeliaCotter.com is her website where you can find her books. You can also find them on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. We love her storytelling around here. We're going to continue with more ghost stories right after this. Oh, the gnome thing just gets me going. Thank you for bringing that up. Like literally every time I hear a guest mention gnomes, I hit the brakes on the topic because
it's
we're going
so much
into
to unpack. I feel like it's just I could talk about it because there's still more details that I didn't even tell you about. And it's just that I love that kind of stuff. It doesn't fit any neat ghostly narrative. It's just totally wild. And I'm so fascinated by it. And just as far as like the intersectional nature of this stuff, like I've been listening to a lot of these podcasts about UFO encounters and people's encounters with high strangeness. And a lot of people just see weird little beings. Like the stories about gnomes and elves are really in those sections of the paranormal world. And so I'm really like learning a lot about all this right now too.
Yeah. Up here, I'll tell you a couple quick stories. My audience has heard these. Up here a few years ago, it was in the fall, early fall when hunting season was on, and I was getting ready in studio here, but my buddy was out hunting, and he went down this path, drove down this path, and then walked back up to the main road, and was hunting back down this path. He gets about a third of the way down, and he's about 15 miles from where I am right now. 16 miles into the forest. And he starts hearing my voice from the forest saying, "Mike, help me. I'm in here. Come get me. Help me." And apparently the little people will do that and try, and then they take you into the netherworlds, right? But he said he's never been so freaked out. Yeah. And then when my son was 3, so this is about 7 years ago, we were out having a hike on we got a lake here a couple miles away, and we were doing the trail walk hike around it. We were doing a little bit of geocaching along that. And we came up this hill and we found the geocache. I go to put him back in his stroller because it's bear season. And if I got to get away, it's much easier than carrying him. And we start to crest the hill. And on the left is about a 40, 50 foot drop, like a steep hill down towards the lake. And all of a sudden, about 25 feet in front of me, this little, I call it a wood nymph. It looked like a walking 2x4, like piece of wood, shaped like a 2x4, but not white, shiny, the way you just get it at the store. It looked like old wood. And I could see the little hands, I could see the feet, and it comes strutting onto the path. And then it gets about 18 inches, 2 feet on the path, and it turns, it looks at my son and I, and then takes off right back down the hill. And I'm sitting there standing, did that just happen? Are you kidding me? Like, that just happened. And I asked my son, I said, did you see that? He goes, I did, Daddy. And it was the weirdest thing. And the one thing I remember about that, it was blurry. It had a little bit of blur with it.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, so interesting. I wonder how many people actually experience stuff like this, but it's so weird and out of the box that they just never tell anybody. Because I do feel like people who have ghost stories will be somewhat inclined to tell a ghost story at some point, but nobody's going to be like, and then I saw this 2x4 that had arms and legs, right? Like because if you and I both have stories, I mean, we're already like paranormally inclined, right? But like if we have these kinds of stories and like my uncle randomly has these stories, it's like, who else is holding on to these encounters that, we don't even know about? maybe everybody's seeing something like this in the woods and then just thinking they just need a nap. But that's so crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts.
Man. I can really see that in my head too. That whole, wow. I bet we'll have interesting dreams tonight about this.
Oh, it's very fun times. Very fun times. Hi, Adventures. Beth, how are you? No, we weren't abducted that day. There was no missing time or anything. No aliens around. Thank you to T-Bone ×2 and Stephen for the super chats. Very much appreciate the great support. So thank you very, very much. And shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. There's no ugly swag there, people. Nothing ugly. You can wear our stuff in public and be proud of it. Here we go, everyone. We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, we continue on with Amelia Cotter. We have her until the top of the hour. We're talking about her book, Maryland Ghosts, Paranormal Encounters in the Free State. And there's a lot of cool stories in this. Do you want to continue with the gnomes, or do you want to continue with something else? Because I'm not sure if you finished up with the gnomes just yet.
Did I? Well, golly, my closing arguments on gnomes. Yeah, I definitely. I don't know. I don't know what else I have to say about it. I'm just so bewildered. And I was saying, I guess during the break, that I feel like I'll have dreams about this tonight. So, but I did have there were a couple of more little experiences tied to my gnome things here in Chicago. One of them was a night terror that I had. So I know, night terrors and sleep paralysis are just kind of, there's debate about that and the paranormal nature of them. But I did have a night terror with sleep paralysis where I sensed that there was a presence of this gnome-like creature in the hallway, and it was calling my name in my voice, which is very similar to the story that you told me, Dave. So this was later in a different apartment around 2011, right before I broke up with this person that I was talking about before, that I had dated. And so I ended up in that apartment in a messy breakup situation. And during the time that he was there by himself, he heard little footsteps, running up and down the hallway at night on occasion, and would think that it was Oscar, and then remember that I took Oscar with me when I moved out. So that was kind of the end, sort of the fizzling out point there for those gnome stories. And then I kind of held on to those personal gnome encounter stories for a long time, because I've done a lot of talks about Maryland ghosts, and the gnome thing would only come up if somebody asked about it. I might talk about it a little bit, but now in the last year or two, I've become really vocal about just sort of sharing these really bizarre just experiences, and sort of seeing it as a whole experience, a whole pattern of experiences, instead of just these weird disjointed things.
Incredible. Incredible. Let's get back to your book here,
Yeah.
right? Because that's a lot of fun too. Maryland Ghosts. Visitors from another planet on Lotsford Vista Road in Mitchellville. What happened there?
Yes. So Lotsford Vista Road will be a familiar name for people who are excited about Goatman lore. There's a couple of different Goatman roads in that area, in that vicinity, but Lotsford Vista Road was a place where people would encounter sorts of high strangeness. But when my aunt was a teenager, so the sister of my uncle Bernie, who was seeing gnomes, meanwhile, my aunt Patty was seeing UFOs. So it must run in the family, right? But as teenagers, they, in the 1960s, they were driving around the back roads and these lovers lanes and smoking cigarettes and stuff like that after dark and whatnot. And just driving along Lotsford Vista Road is a very windy road, lots of one lane kind of activity. And it was already known to be a kind of spooky haunted place. And they pulled up next to a field where they saw these bright flashing lights. And as they were watching these bright flashing lights, it materialized into like a flying saucer, like a really classic looking flying saucer type of object. And they watched it for quite some time before it kind of rose up and kind of hovered over this open field, this sort of like farm field area. And then they were sort of entranced by it, which is sort of a common theme in these stories. They didn't experience any lost time, as you were referring to a few minutes ago. They didn't have any lost time or anything, but they were sort of transfixed, and then they were really spooked, and they got out of there and drove home. They got in trouble. They told the youngest person in their crew, who was like a 12 or 13-year-old that was out with them that night, spilled the beans to their parents that they had been out on the back roads, and they all got in a lot of trouble. But then apparently later they found out that other people had reported seeing that flying saucer that night as well.
Oh, wow. Wow. Was there any alien encounters? Was there a thought that aliens would be around?
So on that particular night, no, but Maryland is a hub of UFO activity. So obviously DC is right there. And there's multiple different Army bases and proving grounds and Camp David and places like that are around Maryland where it's very common for UFOs to be reported, as well as interesting sort of, I grew up near Aberdeen Proving Ground, and a couple of high schools over, they had like mustard gas drills and all sorts of interesting things. And so you wouldn't just get the UFO stories and the alien sort of encounters. You would also get these weird creature stories. So similar to cryptids, but that's sort of like this strange creature that's seen along the back roads that appears to be some sort of mutated science experiments. So you get a lot of that lore kind of mixed in. But I'm trying to think. Most of the stories that I've collected have been people that have just seen UFOs. So it's flying saucers or the cigar-shaped UFOs over the years. But I don't know of any abductions. And that said, I understand that some people mistake abductions for other types of experiences or vice versa. So I would be interested in diving more into that again, kind of looking at some of these stories with like a fresh pair of eyes.
I'm curious if you feel that, you're getting into UFO stories with a fresh pair of eyes. You've worked around with cryptids, ghosts, and everything. Do you think there is something that is completely, how can I put it, connected between them?
I wonder about that so much more now than I used to. I really do feel like for me, it's almost like a sense of interconnection, the way that just things in the natural world are interconnected, like rocks, trees, water, and animals. Kind of like these are all a part of this greater framework of activity that exists out there. It's not really, it might be separate or in an interdimensional sense, but it's like present and overlapping with what is going on in our daily life. I don't really have any other answers than that, because I do feel like there are these connections and we're discovering that more now. But I don't have any like insight into it that's any more brilliant than anybody else's insight. But I do see it as, the supernatural world is like multi-layered and multi-tiered. So why not,
Definitely. I could totally see that. Let's get back to your book here for a moment here. Let's go into the story about the findings of Jericho Covered Bridge near Kingsville. What happened there?
Jericho Covered Bridge is on the back cover. It was on the front cover of the first edition of the book. Whoa, super close up.
Oh, that's one of those Billy Goat's Gruffs type of bridges.
Yeah. So I grew up, I lived like 15 minutes away from this. And if you go to any website and type in like, Haunted Maryland, it comes up on every top 10 list. But Jericho Covered Bridge is just a site of a lot of legends, a lot of the typical legends that kind of like what you're saying in the Crybaby Bridge kind of, urban or suburban myths, but lots of interesting paranormal activity that is reported here. And I certainly spent a lot of nights when I was a teenager parking the car and turning the lights off and waiting flashing your lights 3 times or whatever you're supposed to do, and then turning the car back on. And there were times when there was one time when we felt something slam on the top of the car, as if somebody had kicked the top of the car or hit their hand on it, like really slapped the top of the car. And later we pulled into a gas station and there was like this like filmy white handprint on the top of the car that was like very big, like not a exaggerated human sized handprint. And I learned later that that's actually a common thing for people to have like weird filmy footprints and handprints on their car after being on the bridge. I also had car trouble once where like I couldn't get my car to start. And when I finally did, I like drove the 15 minutes home, like, and it turns out that like my accelerator had blown or whatever. And my dad was like, boy, this is really crazy. How did this even happen? Like, and I just, when I turned the car on, when I was on the bridge, the spirits of the bridge, there's interesting photos in this book. So rumors about lynchings and hangings from the bridge, which may or may not have any historical veracity, but people would experience sort of seeing these figures that looked like they were hanging or hovering at the top of the inside of the bridge. The bridge was, I won't go into all the history because there's not a lot of time, but it's another one of the sort of common legends about these bridges that gets kind of thrown out of proportion and exploited with stories around like enslaved people and stuff. But there's cool photos of what looks like people hovering or hanging from the top of the bridge, like these white figures. And I have a couple of them featured in the book as well. And they're really chilling. They're not like, oh yeah, I can sort of see a shape. It's like really chilling photos.
Oh my. Are those photos on display anywhere?
I don't think so. So these came from a ghost hunting group that is now defunct. But you can see the photos if you purchase my book. But no, and the Kindle version has the photos, I think, in color. So they look even better than the print version. But I can't find any evidence, paranormal in and of itself. I can't find any evidence of the people that sent me this story anymore, because it was like, this was again around 2011, 2012, like ghost hunting groups were popping up like weeds, and they would come and go. So I'm not in contact with those people anymore to see what further research they've done or where those photos might be. But they're in the book.
I love it. We've
I
got
have copies of them. I have JPEGs of them. I think I can probably just share them if people are interested.
I want to ask you, with everything that you've written about, is there a favorite story that you have that you haven't shared in any of your books yet?
There is. So I've started one of my long-term goals has been to just start writing down more and more of my favorite stories, things that have either happened to me, or things that have happened to other people that you always think, I got to put that in somebody's biography one day. So I've been working on kind of cataloging those. Something I recently wrote about, which will be published soon, is, thank you, Timoth Man, for the link. But an encounter that I had in Montana that appears to have been something like the third man syndrome, which is like when a benevolent entity appears in the form of a person or a voice or just a feeling of a presence and helps you in like an emergency situation. I was in like a weird emergency situation with a friend in Montana where we were sort of trapped in the mud on a back road. And this couple pulled up. This was a very muddy, rainy day. And, this was this was off the beaten path, not totally off the beaten path, but we were the only people there on that road that day. We planned this day very poorly. And, we were totally like just trapped where we were. And this couple pulled up in this sparkling white old-fashioned pickup truck that looked like something out of like a Norman Rockwell painting. And it was like that classic Montana, like the man in the beard with the flannel shirt and the woman with her braids, and they had a black lab and the dog was so friendly and they were really comforting. And they were like, "Oh, you guys, what are you doing out here?" And we're like, "Oh, we're stuck." And we're just, the path is only 5, according to our map, like our Rand McNally map, because this was a while ago. We're like, no GPS, right? This was pre-GPS days. We're like, we can keep going just a few more miles that way. And that was the direction the pickup truck had come from, with not a single streak of mud on it. And they were like, "You can't go that way. You've got to go back the way you came." And we're like, "Well, the way we came took us like several hours and we got stuck in the mud. I do not want to go back up that road. We're going to die on that road. We don't have any food and water. We're in a friggin' minivan, like a soccer mom minivan that's not meant to be driving up and over these like old service roads." And they were like, "We know you're scared, but you've got to go back. You can't go back out this way. It's so treacherous. We almost got stuck too. Oh, it's been terrible." I'm thinking, like, these people, their car has nothing. There's no mud. There's no rain. They don't even seem, I feel like I'm in a movie right now. And they said, "We'll follow right behind you. Okay. We're going to be right behind you the whole time." And so they followed us. We turned around and drove all the way back out the way we had come. And there's a lot more to the story, but it was basically really spooky, really treacherous. No other cars the entire time that we were on the road that day. And at some point they disappeared behind us. We never saw them again. And at the tippy top of this service road, you go all the way up and over this mountain, and then you go back down the other side. And when we got to the tippy top, you could see the roads kind of zigzagging down to the bottom where we were. And there was no pickup truck anywhere. It was as if they had never been there. And we were so coasting on adrenaline and just coasting on this idea of comfort that they were there and that they were right behind us. And just, even though I couldn't see them, I was like, "Oh, I know that they're with us. They're got to be back there somewhere." We just kept going. And again, we never saw the pickup truck again. And my friend that I was with, who's not paranormally inclined at all, was like, "Those people had to be our guardian freaking angels," because she was like, "I swear to God, those people were not real. Those were not real people." And I had an incredibly ominous feeling about what would have happened to us if we had taken the easy way out and just gone this little stretch of road that was flat, that we thought, "Okay, we'll make it." But it was so muddy and so perilous. And so I just had one of those bad feelings, like you left the oven on, about like, we're not going to make it off this road if we go in that direction. And that was the direction they came from and said, "Do not go that way."
Oh my, that is stressful. That is stressful. How did you keep your composure?
Oh God, I don't know if I did. I was a little panicky Pete. So Sarah drove the first stretch and I had to drive back. And I think because I was in the driver's seat and felt like I had some control, it was the kind of road too, where like you 1 or 2 feet this way and you're like looking off a steep drop off, which is very spooky for me. So I just thought to myself, like, this is a bad situation. And we just have to keep going, right? But I was just on autopilot, but I was very panicky. I mean, I was like hyperventilating at times because I was so freaked out. She was very calm and she stayed calm the whole time, but she was also freaked out. That was her coping mechanism, was to remain very calm. And my coping mechanism was to kind of like, freak out a little bit. So we sort of riffed off of that and we made it out of there just fine. But we both had an instinctual sort of ominous feeling about that trip.
It's almost like you knew it was coming.
Yeah. And this was after we got back from a camping trip. We had done backcountry camping and we had 0 problems. So we had done things that were actually, remote and isolated and, maybe even dangerous. And then we just were like, we're going to spend the last day. We're going to go out to Castletown, which is this ghost town out on this road, Route 12. We got this. We're going to just pop out there and come back. It's going to be a day trip. No big deal. And it turned into this whole ordeal. And then those people appeared and disappeared. And it was very profound.
Wow. We got about 3 minutes to go here as we get ready to close out with you tonight, Amelia. And this has been so much fun. Much fun.
This has flown by.
It really has. And you didn't want to stay up late. I had to convince you.
I'm bad at this. I'm not good at staying up late. I am not a night person.
Well, you are doing fantastic tonight. Just promise me you'll come back before like 5 years again.
Okay. Yes, I will. I can do this. Once every 3 years.
Once every 3 years.
Yeah, I'll start preparing myself now for the interview 3 years from now.
We will book you in 2027.
Okay, again. Perfect. I'll put it on my calendar.
I mean, you have so much fun doing what you're doing and writing about the paranormal and supernatural. Which direction are you planning on going next? Is it more into the UFO or cryptid world?
I think so. Yeah. So I have some ideas on research and writing projects and fun stuff that I want to get into. And so I am sort of flirting with the idea of doing more of that and just focusing my research also on the importance of storytelling. So in a more like lofty academic, whatever kind of way, but there's that. And then also just wanting to just do more with cryptids and just have more fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want to learn about the cryptid world?
Everything. I just want to collect people's cool stories. If you and I have all these cool, wacky stories, imagine all the wacky stories that folks are holding on to because they don't have anybody to talk to about all this weird shit that they've seen. Not even their friends who have seen ghosts are going to believe, their experiences. And so I want to uncover that and make it okay for people to talk about it.
Yeah. And you know what? That's good encouragement for our audience because there are many people out there who are too shy, too embarrassed to tell about their incredible encounters. And you know what? I guess our message, and I'm sure you'll agree, Amelia, is it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to have something different than happen. Whether it's a gnome in your garden or whether it's a UFO in the sky.
Right.
Absolutely. 40 seconds left. Could you do me a favor? Tell everybody where they can find more information on you.
Absolutely. Everywhere. AmeliaCotter.com is my website. I'm on Facebook. You can friend me or follow my author page. I'm on Instagram. I am not on Twitter X anymore, but you can find me on YouTube at Amelia M. Cotter. I have a fun little YouTube channel. You can email me, get in touch. I love to be in contact with people.
Absolutely. And don't forget to share those stories with Amelia. Amelia, thank you so much for staying up late for our
Thank you.
audience tonight. It's been absolutely wonderful. And good luck with your next adventures into the weird and strange.
Yay! Likewise. Thank you all for tuning in as well.
All right. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, as we head into hour number 3, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing. Then get your questions ready, because if you're in our YouTube audience, I'm going to take your questions for the final hour of anything weird and strange. We're going to get into it. So join me on Spaced Out Radio for hour number 3, coming up next. Thank you, Amelia.
Thank
Very
you.
much appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you. This was a lot of fun. And I'm running on my last fume, but I feel like that made for even better conversation because I'm totally I'm in the zone right now.
Well, you can go be in the zone on your pillow now. How about that?
I can. Yes, that's right.
We'll see you in 2027.
All righty.
Take
Good
care,
luck.
my friend.
Thanks so much. Same.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Amelia Cotter, everybody. How awesome was she? I'll be right back. You guys sit back. We got a few minutes here. Hi, Kawhi. How you doing? All right, guys, start putting in your questions. JSCO, how are you? Start putting in your questions for hour number 3. How's the lubing going over there, Bill WD-40? Should say hi, beautiful Bill WD-40. Yeah, what a night. What a great night. We're having a lot of fun here. Thank you to T-Bone ×2, Stephen and Deb for the super chats. Very much appreciate it. Don't forget to shop, at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. Bill says he's still lubing. Good. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Nakre. Nakre is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go with Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and another spooky story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Yosemite National Park is in California's Sierra Nevada mountains and boasts breathtaking granite cliffs, lush forests, and magnificent waterfalls, making it an ideal location for nature lovers. However, the park has a strange history of disappearances. Although some of these incidents can be attributed to accidents or natural causes, others remain mysterious and have given rise to various theories and legends. The case of Stacy Arras' disappearance in Yosemite National Park is widely known. In 1981, the then 14-year-old girl from San Rafael, California, went backpacking with her father in the park. They set up camp close to the Merced River, but Stacy vanished without a trace during the night. Despite a thorough search effort, she was never located. A 30-year-old Army reservist and hiker named Joel Thomason had planned a solo hiking trip starting from Hetchy on September 6, 2021. He intended to fish in the Lake Eleanor area and return on September 9, 2021. However, he may have decided to extend his trip and heads toward Cherry Lake or even as far as the Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne River. Joel was likely carrying a kayak, which was packed in a large red pouch attached to the exterior of his backpack. Despite immense efforts, Joel has yet to be located. Yosemite National Park has had multiple occurrences of hikers, climbers, and backpackers vanishing. While some cases have been resolved, others remain a mystery. The reason behind these disappearances is disputed, with some suggesting a serial killer or malicious force, while others theorize supernatural or paranormal causes. Experts have identified accidents like falling or getting lost in the wilderness As the primary reasons for disappearances in Yosemite National Park, even experienced hikers and climbers can be at risk if unprepared due to the park's vast and rugged terrain, emphasizing the importance of being cautious while enjoying the great outdoors. And now, the Nevada Triangle. The Nevada Triangle, also known as the Nevada Desert Triangle, is in the western United States and connects Las Vegas, Reno, and Fresno. This area has gained notoriety due to the mysterious disappearances of planes that have occurred there throughout the years. According to thorough research and documentation, over 2,000 planes have crashed in the region from Reno to Las Vegas and Fresno, California, though some experts dispute the actual number. Many of these incidents occurred between the late 1960s and the 1990s. The pilots involved in these crashes were either discovered later, confirmed to have passed away, or disappeared without a trace. Steve Fawcett, a well-known explorer and aviator, took off in a super decathlon from a small Nevada airstrip on November 3, 2007, but seemingly disappeared without a trace. Despite extensive search and rescue operations that lasted for weeks and cost approximately $700,000, Fawcett was not found until more than a year later. A hiker stumbled upon his scattered ID cards along a trail. A few days later, the crash site was discovered, approximately 65 miles from where the aviator initially took off. 2 bones were later recovered a half-mile from the crash site, which were found to belong to Steve Fawcett. Numerous theories have been suggested to clarify the disappearances that occurred in the region. These theories vary from human mistakes and mechanical failures to inexplicable happenings like magnetic abnormalities, unidentified flying objects, and even the possibility of government concealment. Nevertheless, these disappearances probably occurred due to pilot errors, rugged landforms, and sudden, unpredictable weather occurrences. Regarding Fawcett's case, the NTSB determined that he faced a substantial downdraft of approximately 400 miles an hour, which was too powerful for his decathlon to withstand.
And thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for a great set of stories there. If you want more than just that, all you got to do is go to youtube.com/Among the Missing and push them through right there, because you want to hit that subscribe button. You want to ring that bell. And let's see here. If you don't, well, may your crackers be broken. Just like that. So we're going to do something a little bit different tonight. I have no theme music for it. Normally, we usually have Travis William Moostus come in for the cryptid report. However, due to personal circumstances, he could not make it tonight. He'll be back next week. And I decided, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Well, I figured we'd take some audience questions. We don't do this a lot. I mean, we do it during the show, but never really with me. So we're going to line up the questions from our audience and see where they take us. We're going to start off on Twitch with Little Cam here, who is asking, have you ever stayed the night or slept on the res? No, I have not. But one of the things that I want to do for the spiritual experience, and I've talked to a lot of my First Nations friends and acquaintances about this, is I want to go for a sweat. Yeah, that's where you go into a hut where you're closed off and it gets really hot in there and you start to sweat and you meditate while you're doing this. It's almost like a sauna, and apparently real spiritual stuff happens in there. A lot of spirits will come visit you during that. A lot of spirit animals, including Sasquatch and other cryptids, sometimes aliens. They come and visit, and they all have messages. I think it would be just a profound, powerful spiritual experience. That is something that I want to experience. All right, let's continue on here. Let's go to Kauai. Dave, who is your favorite band? There is only one band out there. They sing the greatest song I've ever written. Guns N' Roses, of course. Paradise City, my favorite song. And I was thinking about this because I was watching on Netflix the other night, Guns N' Roses live concert, Appetite for Democracy. This was the final tour with the band that Axl had prior to the reunion with Slash and Duff. And I had been at 3 of the previous shows that week before it was filmed, including on my birthday. And one of my bucket list items is when Axl Rose blows the whistle in Paradise City. He throws that whistle into the crowd. And I literally played game tape for weeks on this, trying to study where Axl was going to actually throw the whistle. So I was with my buddy Ping, and Ping and I were in there. I said, okay, Ping, I have literally studied where this is going to go. We're going to stand right here. And the song before that was Patience. And as Patience ended, these two ladies walk in front of us. Not a big deal. But then they were joined by the 6'5" husband. Yeah. And this is on my 41st birthday. So we're coming up to the 10-year anniversary of this. And Axl throws the whistle. And it's coming right for me. That whistle was supposed to be mine. And who does it hit? 6'5" guy in the head. And I'm like, no, I'm probably never going to get this opportunity again. I've manifested this opportunity since I was 14 years old, when I first heard Appetite for Destruction. And I'm like, no, this can't be. This can't be. So I tap the guy on the shoulder and I say, I'll give you $500 for that whistle right now. It is my birthday today. It's on my bucket list. Please, $500 cash right now. He turns away from me like I'm nothing. This is a big dude, very big dude. So he starts walking away, and I walk up to him again and says, I'm sorry to bug you. I'll give you $1,000 cash right now for that whistle. And he turns to me and he says, F you. And you know the worst part about it is, I would literally have a shrine to that whistle hanging up. I'd frame it, first of all, and I'd have a shrine to it in my studio here. But alas, I guarantee you that whistle has probably never seen the top of the drawer ever since. Probably in some kitchen drawer, you know, the kitchen junk drawer that we all have. Some of us have two of them. You know, and you don't know what's in there because it's all covered up by bills and scrap pieces of paper. And you got about 27 Bic pens, and all of them are dead. But you don't throw them out because you want to get the last of the ink, even though the ink is already dried up. Yeah, that drawer. Yeah, I guarantee you that's where that whistle is. All right. Let's go to Sasquatch guy. Dave, what is your most profound cryptid experience? I've had a couple. 2018, there's this one area here where I live. It's Flight 21 crash site. And in 1965, 52 people died in that area when the plane crashed after a bomb blew up the plane. Today, it's still Canada's largest unsolved mass murder. Well, in 2018, Merle, whose birthday it is today, he's 42 today. So if you haven't gone on Facebook to wish Merle a happy birthday, head on over to Facebook and wish him a happy birthday. Long story short, in 2018, Merle wanted to do a paranormal investigation there. And so we did the investigation. We were there about 90 minutes. It was Merle, my buddy Mark, and myself. Now, Mark was our armed guard in there because in that area, there's a lot of wild animals. There's grizzly bears, there's black bears, there's cougars, there's 1,500-pound moose, there's wolves, there's coyotes, a lot of stuff that can hurt you. And so after the investigation, Merle and I take this deer trail to see if there's any more wreckage in the area. And Mark follows up behind, and Mark says, hey, guys, as we open up to a meadow, he goes, hey, guys, I'm going to wait here. I got a good line of sight in case any wild animals come up. So you guys go into the meadow. I'll wait here. So Merle and I walk over to this boulder, and we're just kind of standing around. And from the trees in front of us, Mark would be, say, at 9 o'clock if we're looking at noon on a clock. And we hear like the Sierra sounds from 1976 that Ronald Moorhead had filmed. And we're like, hello, Who's out here? Who are you? Do you want to say hello? And a couple minutes later, again. Now, it didn't sound anything like that, but you get the gist. And so, not even thinking Sasquatch at that time, we're like, oh, that's weird. We take the deer trail back, and Mark wanders off first, Merle second, I'm third. And we take the deer trail back, and Merle stops at this piece of landing gear that was still in the forest, and Mark walks off into this open area where they had like a round, not a roundabout, but like a cul-de-sac to turn around in the vehicles. And I'm kind of in the middle of both of them. Well, what we didn't know was that the Sasquatch snuck up on Merle. Yeah. And it got to about 15, 20 feet behind him and behind this thick brush and trees, and was huffing and puffing and growling and stomping its feet and everything. And at that exact same time, at the trees in front of Mark, who was about 100 feet away, if that, okay, there was something bipedal coming at Mark through the trees. He didn't see it, he heard it. Now, Mark's a kind of guy where I trust him with everything in the forest. He's been a hunting guide, he's been an animal tracker, he's been an outdoorsman his entire life. And if there's anybody who knows safety, it's Mark. And so I really, really was getting freaked out. It was a little bit awesome, but they were pushing us towards the exit. Yeah, they were pushing us towards the exit. And the exit was right in the middle. And so after about 8 minutes of being surrounded by 2 Sasquatch, possibly 3, we decided to leave. Go back last year. Well, we've been to that spot a number of times, but when we were there last year, that's where all hell broke loose. On day 2, when we were there, Samantha Mowat and I felt some electricity coming from the ground. This was after we started walking back down the trail, trying to figure out if we were alone or not, because her and I had a feeling that we were being watched. And then Merle comes stomping by us and turns left on this other trail. And all of a sudden you hear Merle way in the background. Nope. 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 And he comes racing back, and we all ask Merle, like, what were you doing? Like, we have a team rule. We don't go off alone. He's like, I don't know how I got there. Right. And so I said, well, what were you noping about? He goes, something whistled at me. Just like a, sorry, my lips are dry. Just like that. And so we all walked over to that area, started looking around, didn't see anything, but way off in the distance, we heard a 15 to 20 second Sasquatch roar. And it was like that one pitch. It was just like one solid roar. And it freaked the cattle out in the area, because there's a lot of free range cattle in that area. It freaked them out, because after this roar ended, they started mooing like anything and wouldn't stop. But this was like way off in the distance. So we decided we're going to head back to our base camp. And that's where we hear this real guttural grrr coming from base camp. Now, as the crow flies, base camp is probably 45, 50 yards away, not very far. So as we have to take this 90-degree turn to get back to base camp, where we have thousands of dollars worth of camera equipment, all of our food and drinks, our backpacks are all there, we decide to start stepping up, thinking, oh crap, there's a bear in camp. And so I'm watching through the trees towards base camp, seeing if a bear starts coming our way, because there's 7 people out there and we have 1 shotgun with our armed guard Mike out there. Yeah. Well, we saw something. I saw a matte colored brown metal object sitting in the trees. The sun was shining off the top left of it, turning it like an orangish, yellowish green. So that's what makes the color brown. And I stopped. I said to my team, I said, what the hell is that? And when I pointed to the area, the other team members saw two alien grays, tall grays, walking through the trees. So my theory on this, if I put my tinfoil hat on, is that it wasn't a bear that warned us about the aliens. It was a Sasquatch that warned us that there were extraterrestrials in the area and to be careful. I'm sticking to that story. There's eyewitnesses to that story. And nothing can convince us otherwise. And that's even putting a skeptical hat on. It was weird. It was totally weird. So that's my experience. Let's go to Wild Man's mom. Do you think you'll have that one experience, or do you think that have one experience opens the door for others, marking you perhaps? I totally agree with this. I know where you're going with this question. Yes, I do believe that if you follow the path of trying to find out what is going on, more doors will open. The more you go down the rabbit hole, the more infected you're going to be with these happenings. And this is where I do believe the phenomena is all connected, because a lot of people, Wild Man's mom, will have experiences, say with ghosts. Okay. But then it starts to pick up where maybe you start noticing other things, whether it's in your house or outside or whatever, you know. And I think if we take those clues and run with those clues and start studying what's happening, and you're keeping an open mind and you're really meditating into it, I think a lot of different experiences can happen, whether it's astral travel, whether it's seeing cryptids, whether it's seeing UFOs, maybe out of body experiences, channeling spirits, seeing more ghosts and entities, being able to summon things in. There's a lot of doors that seem to open when we are going through that. All right. And let's move on here. Let's go to Paramarv, who is asking, during your abductions, Dave, are you aware of visiting another location, or did you just orbit Earth? I have zero recall of ever being on a craft. I know I've been taken. They've never showed me outside. They've never shown me the cockpit. They've never allowed me to fly the craft. I'm a little upset about that. That's a little personal. But I get little snippets of everything that only last from seconds to a couple minutes. I don't get the full-on experience of everything. I don't know. Maybe they're blacking me out or something. I don't know. I wish I did, though. I wish I did have more recall, you know, because I would trust that recall a lot more than, say, regression therapy. Yeah, that's a tough question, because I see and hear these stories of people who have been shown windows on the craft where they're sitting there, you know, watching the Earth go by, or they seeing, you know, meteors and asteroids flying by, or they're seeing up close and personal other planets. I would love to see that. I really, really would. But they haven't given me that sight yet, and I'm not sure why. I think if they want me to be a medium for the message, I would get that experience. But they haven't given that to me yet. Maybe I'm being too greedy. I don't know. I really don't know. But that's where we are. That's where we are. So, not much I can do about it. We're going to continue with some audience questions for me for the next and final half hour of this show. It's been a fun one so far. We're going to continue the fun right after this as we continue with audience questions on Spaced Out Radio. So keep your questions coming. I'll try and get to them all in the time we have left tonight. My name is Dave Scott. This is Spaced Out Radio. Final half hour coming up right after this station. All right, let me get caught up with questions here. Bob Bobbert, I specifically did not answer your question because my personal life is my personal life. And I don't mean that to be insultive, but I do like a little privacy. Thank you. Peter Benton, how you doing? Let's see here. Oh, Chris, yeah, the sweats are incredible. Have you been, Chris? I really hope I get the opportunity to. I really do. Let's see here. Okay, I'm marking down. We do sweat. Oh, Sunshine Music Festival. Very cool, Brandon. Very cool. Let's see. I used to be able to. I've never been a good whistler. Never have. Sweet Robbie G in the house. All right. Got your question there. The Doug Shelby. Hi, May May. Good to see you. Sweet Tony D. Hey, Gee. How you doing there, buddy? What are you still doing awake there, Gee? Yeah, that was a freaky night there, Gee. Both those nights. All right. Major Lee, how you doing? Irium, Australia. Or Earlham, I'm sorry. Earlham, Australia. Welcome to SOR Chat. How you doing? Tell us a secret, Dave. All right. Dark Starry Sky, how you doing? Dark Starry Sky, don't go in alone and don't go at night. I'll just forewarn you on that. Don't go at night. I have never been more freaked out. And Mike Schmidt, who's in the chat room, he was with me that night. He will tell you there was a lot of weird things going on all around us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're welcome for that one, Sasquatch guy. All right. Let's see here. Bill WD40 still lubing us up in the other chat room. All right. Let's see here. I got the blue dot view. I don't know what that means, Nicole. Oh. Oh, Little Cam, how did you know that I was a 6 a.m. fan? Oh, we're going to have some fun with that one. Lex Diaz, how you doing? Change of host there, Little Cam. And one of the last Psychic Sundays that we had, I'll answer this one here. The psychic that was being used was becoming a little bit too personal, talking about spouses cheating on spouses, talking about medical conditions, a lot of stuff that could get me in trouble for being a business. And he wouldn't stop. So I had to put an end to it. By the way, we're 6 subs shy of 10,000 on Twitter. We'd appreciate your support there. Let's see here. All right. Here we go, everybody. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It's a rare night where we're taking audience questions, just asking anything that is going on, and that's what we're doing right now as we continue on with our audience questions. And we are going to go to Little Cam over on Twitch, who is, we already asked that one. Sorry. I got to get caught up here. And let's go to Chris here. Chris is asking, Dave, how do you process missing time experiences? I've had many and just shrug them off without thought. Now, I've never had missing time. I have had time skip on me twice at the same intersection in Vancouver, once heading westbound, once heading eastbound. I watched the light turn green. It was exactly the same on both sides. I saw the light turn green. I hit my gas pedal to go, and next thing I know, I hear cars honking at me because the car or the light is red, and I'm running a red light. But I've never had that 2-3 hour, 45 minutes, or 4 hours, 6 hours of missing time. I've never had that. So what causes that? Is it aliens? Is it something different? Do we get caught in a time warp? I really don't know. It's something that is mystifying to me, the missing time portion. We do hear a lot of it with alien experiencers. I think it more so happens with them. Why it happens, I don't know. I mean, you think the aliens would be able to bring you back to the second you left. But maybe some of them don't have that technology. I don't know. Would I put them off? I think, Chris, there is a much bigger story that is happening rather than just shrugging them off. I would probably be way too curious with what's going on and be trying to figure out why this is happening. I mean, is it aliens? Is it something different? That I really don't know. That's going to be up to you, though. Let's go to the Doug Shelby. Hey, Captain, when will the 10-year anniversary date for SOR be? And that will be November 30th, 2024. November 30th, 2024. We will be a 10-year-old show. What inspired to create SOR? Well, I had a friend who basically said it was time to get my journalism degree out of mothballs. He knew of all my experiences, and he literally convinced me to start up a radio show. And when I left terrestrial radio back in 2007, I didn't understand how iPods worked. I didn't understand what podcasting was. I didn't understand that there was this whole new concept of online radio. Didn't get it. And then he showed me how it worked. We set it up, and I figured, yeah, I'll give this a try. And here we are, 10 years later, each and every night. So we've always been 7 days a week. There was a brief gap where we when I was searching for the perfect weekend host a couple of years ago, I decided to take some weekends off, and not worry about the weekends, but I didn't like that. So we ended up on like, if you're listening on our terrestrial radio side, we do have weekend show that plays on our Saturday and Sunday nights here on our YouTube channel and Twitch channels. So you're more than welcome to tune us on in. The only thing we ask in return is you hit subscribe, ring that bell. But that's why we started it, was to try and bring those stories back to the light. And I've had a lot of fun doing it. Still not burnt out. No, still not burnt out. We'll keep it going for a while. I'm feeling confident. Let's go to Sweet Tony D in the UK. What is your take on the Gary McKinnon case, the hacker that the USA wanted extradited? Do you think it could be damning evidence for disclosure as he exposed NASA employing ETs? The Gary McKinnon case is very highly controversial. You know, number one, the U.S. government isn't going to like anybody who hacks into their system. That becomes enemy number one, first and foremost. Number two, should we trust what Gary McKinnon says he saw? That's up for debate from a lot of people. The way Gary has kind of kept quiet over the years has been very suspicious. Maybe he was threatened. Maybe he was told not to do certain things by a lawyer or some sort of attorney or barrister. I have tried to get him on this show before, unsuccessfully. But right now, the way the government is deflecting everything and the way the highly skeptical who are dominating social media right now, I think that that Gary probably doesn't want the drama. He probably does not want the drama of going in and saying, this is what I found, and rehashing that entire story. I did find it interesting that the British government decided not to extradite him to the U.S., considering the ally relationship between the U.S. and Great Britain. So, I don't know. I really don't know where I stand on that story. It's an interesting one for sure, though. Noble Patrick is asking, tell us a secret, Dave. What's a weird secret I can tell you? I'm pretty open. I'm pretty open about my experiences that I've had. I'm just trying to think if there's one that I haven't really talked about. And it's kind of hard to do that because you don't want dead air on the radio. I don't know. I really don't know. Let me think about that. I'll try and come back to that one, Noble Patrick. Christine is asking, can you tell us the story behind Bill WD-40? I don't get it. This is a question that makes me laugh. We have a listener named Bill WD-40. And, you know, WD-40 is a liquid that lubes things up. You go to your local hardware store, pick up a can. It makes doors from stopping squeaking. It lubes up bicycle chains. You got to use WD-40 for everything. It's like the universal tool. It's like duct tape, except in liquid. And Bill had a different initial on there, and it just reminded me of WD-40. So I started I like to nickname people. It's how I associate people, as if I nickname them. And the reason why I nickname people is because I like to individualize people, and I do it strictly out of love. So I started calling Bill WD-40, and he changed his name in our chat room to build WD-40, and that's where it kind of stuck. It's been like that for a couple years now. He lubes us up for every show because that's what WD-40 does. There's your answer. It's that simple. Nothing more profound than that. And you should have a can of WD-40 in your house at all times. You never know when you're going to use it. Castle Dude in the UK is asking, Dave, have you ever been to a haunted location and had to leave because it was too much? The answer to that is no. Ghosts don't really scare me. I've had some very interesting encounters. I've been attacked by a ghost 3 times. By the same ghost, actually. So that's kind of cool. And that's at our haunted museum here in my town, where I run a ghost tour. But I've never been to a haunted location that absolutely freaks me out. If I was close to say one, it would be the Flight 21 crash site. And I don't know if it's because of the ghosts or everything around there, but it is real heavy energy. And sometimes I just don't like to be there. Yeah. Now, I will say this. At my Sasquatch spot that I have, where we do research, there was one night there where I don't know what the heck was going on. But the minute we turned onto that logging road, everything just did not seem right. It was so creepy, I wouldn't even allow my son to come out of the vehicle. I made him stay in the vehicle because it just seemed that there was something very, very, I don't want to use the term evil, but very, very dark that was around. And I didn't want anything to happen to him. And we were only there maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes max. And then we decided that it was time to leave. But none of us left the vicinity of our vehicle. We were in one vehicle that night, and none of us left that vicinity. Like, we kept the doors open and the truck running the entire time because there was just something so creepy about whatever was there that night. And I don't know what it was. Never saw it, never heard it. It was just one of those instinctual feelings that if we stayed there, something bad was going to happen. And we got the heck out. We did. And I've been there many a time since. Never had that feeling there again. Now, I'm not saying that it isn't going to happen again, but you just got to be careful. And you have to play with your instincts. When you're out in the middle of the forest, you have to play with your instincts. And if your gut tells you to get the hell out of there, get the hell out. That's what safety is all about. Let's go to Blue Cruise here, who is asking, what are your views on the eternal soul death traps? I'm going to be honest with you, Blue Cruise. I have no clue what those are. Let's Google it. Eternal soul death traps. What are they? I don't know what they are. I really don't. Forgive me for that. Maybe explain that one in our chat room. Let's go to Paramarv. Is it true that there will be Nordics at the Reno fan party this coming May? Yes, if you haven't signed up for our fan party yet, May 10th through 12th at the Reno, Nevada, at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort, we are doing our 3rd annual fan party. You can get more information at info@spacedoutradio.com, info@spacedoutradio.com. On the Friday afternoon, we're going to do a live YouTube show and radio show for our radio audience. That night, we're going to have our VIP party. On the Saturday, Merle is taking a bunch of people up to Virginia City to go on a ghost walk and a paranormal tour. And right after that is a sky watch looking for UFOs with Melinda Leslie. We got a bunch of people who've been on this show previous who are going to come and hang out with all of you guys. It's going to be a great night, but I always try for the Nordics or any type of aliens to show up We'll get CIA, we'll get NSA, but so far, unfortunately, no aliens. I know. I don't mean to break your heart, but we're trying. We'd like to have aliens there. Little Cam is asking, what is your favorite 6 a.m. song? Oh, there's so many. I would have to go back. There's a couple. Okay. There's a couple real good ones. I'd have to go back to the Heroin Diaries. Dead Man's Ballet is phenomenal. A phenomenal song. And that would be my third favorite. My second favorite would be The Lies of the Beautiful People. And my number one song by 6 a.m. is Life is Beautiful. Now, if you want a powerful song to listen to, if you're feeling down in the dumps and you need something to get back, you got to listen to Nikki Sixx and DJ Ashba and them just rock. It just pumps you right up. Pumps you right up because sometimes you need that. Sometimes you just got to figure out that song that makes you feel good. So, yeah. Let's go to Mama Susan. Is my son interested in the paranormal? Yes and no. Yes and no. The little guy he's seen some things. You know, he's seen some things, and he does have a mild interest in it, but it's not really his thing. And he hasn't really opened up to it. He likes going out looking for Sasquatch. I will say that. He really enjoys that. So we take him out, and he has a good time with looking for Sasquatch. And if I'm on location somewhere, I usually try and bring him out. That way, not only are we having some father-son time, but, you know, he gets to learn about what dad's into and all that. Laura Lobbs is asking, Dave, what is your earliest paranormal event? Oh, that would be 1994. I saw my first UFO in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And it was just like this orange Tic Tac sitting in the sky. And I watched it fly, and I heard the deep buzzing sound. The sound was what caught my attention right off the bat, because I thought it was a C-130 Hercules flying over. But this didn't have any other lights on it except this orange Tic Tac shaped light. And then I watched it for a couple minutes, and then the light turned off, just blinked off, and then the sound ended about 10 seconds later. And it just disappeared. That would have been my first UFO experience. My first haunting experience would have been in a hockey rink that I worked at, also in Abbotsford, British Columbia. And it was a training center. And this place was freaky. Like, it scared me being there alone. And I was about 20, 21 at the time, 22, working there. And from seeing apparitions there to hearing pucks off the plexiglass when nobody's been on the ice for an hour, that was weird. Hearing people laughing and beer cans clanging as they get thrown into the garbage can, that was weird when you go into the dressing room and there's nobody there. I had a lot of very strange experiences there. And it was very, very profound. That place, you know, I was asked earlier if I'd been to a place that scared me. Now that I think about it, that hockey rink scared me. Yeah, it wasn't, it was just, there was something about the land there that just freaked me out. It just absolutely freaked me out. So that is something that I would love to investigate in there. You know, I would really love to investigate there. Yeah. So Let me see if there's any other questions that we have. Apparently, because of my Canadian accent, I'm being bugged in the chat room. And I'm asked to say decal. You're probably saying decal. No, it's decal. And it's roof, not roof. All right. And it's about, not about, or a boot. There we go. Little Canadianism there for you. All right. We got about 2 minutes to go here on the show tonight. I want to say thank you to our audience for these absolutely great questions for tonight. I absolutely love this. I love doing audience questions like this. But yes, I always like rocking out to the audience, and I want to say a big shout out, because I haven't in a long time, to our theme song guy, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. I've had a lot of questions again recently about what our theme song is. It's called Little Brother is Watching. So if you go to Apple iTunes or Google Music Store, or even if you're on YouTube, the song is called Little Brother is Watching. Yeah, that is a very good song. Very, very good song that old Davey loves to rock out to. And thankfully, I get to each and every night, because that's what makes this show fun. You need a good theme song in order to get pumped up. And I'll tell you, there's nobody better than Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. I'm telling you, it's true. He's got some new music coming out very soon. And I just want to see what the new band name is. Let's see here. What's the band name? Whom Gods Destroy. That's the new band. Whom Gods Destroy. In 3 days, they release their first single. It is going to be absolutely awesome. So make sure you check it on out. Speaking of Mr. Bumblefoot, if you listen in the background, there it is. It's always pop, Sandra. Never so. It's always pop. Hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter or X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. It's good times, people. Very good times. Should be happy with that one. Very happy. I'm pretty pleased. Yeah. How could you not be? Got Bumblefoot to rock out to. Download. Give me 2 seconds, everybody. You know when your head starts hurting from wearing a ball cap? That's where I'm at right now. I did not weigh myself at the gym tonight, but the one thing that I can comfortably say is I'm down about 3.5 inches from my stomach right now. Yeah, trimming down nicely. Be careful, people. Dave's going to be looking very sexy lately, and very soon, pardon me. Yep. Just the way it is. And I hate to be the bearer of that news, but what am I supposed to do? It happens. It just happens. Mm-hmm. It just happens. Man up, Dave. What am I manning up for? Oh. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. Breathing is getting easier. Yeah. Seriously. The whole breathing thing, that's kind of good. Mm-hmm. I like the whole breathing thing. It's nice to go on a treadmill now and actually not be panting. I am not a monster. How are you? Everywhere's haunted, man. Christine, what are you eating, drinking? Well, I can't have sugar now because sugar makes my blood pressure go up. So I've had to cut out everything to do with sugar, which really sucks because I love iced tea. Food wise, I'm trying to eat a lot more vegetables, a lot more meat. That is something that I'm really trying to do well at. I don't know if I'm being successful, but whatever it is working quite a bit. One second, I gotta normalize my audio here. It was a little hot at first, a little bit here. So at the gym, I have a workout program. I start with half an hour on the treadmill, and then I go to weights, and let's see if that works. But I'm not pushing heavy weight right now because I'm trying to get my heart under control with the blood pressure and my high blood pressure. I'm really trying to. That's good enough right there. I'm really trying hard to not push heavy weights, just kind of push weights that I'm very comfortable with right now. Good night, Mama Catherine. Love you. Yeah. So I'm feeling better. Looking better. I'll tell you, and this is just coming from me. I mean, take what it's worth. One of the biggest mistakes I made in my life was I started procrastinating about my health. I really did start to procrastinate about my oh hell. All right, hold on. Give me 2 seconds here. Edit, undo, normalize. Let's go like that now. Oh, piss off. You know what? We're just going to redo this. This is getting stupid. All right. I'm going to reload all of this. And go like this. And so, trying to, when you let yourself go, like I let myself go, it adds to a lot of stress. and you don't know how much stress you're carrying until you have your wake up call. And, I don't want to get political here because I got fat, guys. I got fat. And I see a lot of these people online now who say, like talking about obesity or morbid obesity is fat shaming and all this kind of bullshit. It's not. Okay. There's a real health concern that comes along with it. Okay. I've never had high blood pressure before. I've never not been able to eat sugar before. I've never had a lot of the issues that I am having now. And it's because I forgot to take care of myself. And the more I forgot to take care of myself, the worse off I got. Okay. And, you know, where I really, really got mad at myself was number one, I've never ever worn double XL clothing. And that started a year ago. Oh, no, about 2 years ago. And when the double XL clothing started getting tight on me, and then I was starting to fall asleep all over the place. I mean, you guys saw it on the show where all of a sudden I would doze off and everything. I had no control over that. And what scared me into doing something about it was I was taking my son to hockey out of town, and my partner was in the passenger seat. And I had been driving 20 minutes and I literally zonked my head down and fell asleep at the wheel. And that's where I thought, oh my God, I have an issue. And then a couple of days later, I woke up that one morning and I was totally having heart palpitations, and it scared me. And I went to emergency because I'd had them before, but never, like, after a period of time, it would always calm back down. And it scared me. So I knew that my ass kicking was coming, and I wanted to make sure that I gave myself my ass kicking rather than a heart attack or a stroke, because at the speed I was running, I was literally a dead man walking. And so, it sounds morbid, it sounds terrible, but when you don't take care of yourself, look, you don't have to go to the gym. I'm doing it for me because that's what I feel I need to do. But, it sucks waking up with a sore chest every morning and you're not sure if you had a heart attack in the middle of the night or it's just the weight pushing on your ribs. Right? So that's just me. And, I've always been a stocky guy, because when I was younger, I did lift weights and everything. So it's kind of like a comfort zone, but I go to the gym. I'm not embarrassed about my size or what I look like. I know I'm getting better, and I know I'm getting healthier, and I know that I am getting to a point where everything's going to be okay. And it's because of positive results that I'm making in my everyday choices of life. And I'm doing it for me. And, part of that, I still fight the lazy fight. Like, there are days where I'm like, do I really want to go to the gym today? I don't feel like sweating. I don't have enough time, whatever it may be. But I have to. Because this is my life. And if I don't fight for me, how am I going to be able to fight for anybody else? I can't. So that's where I decided I needed to make some changes. And I'm glad. I mean, I'm not out of the woods yet, totally not out of the woods yet. There's a long way I have to go before I'm healthy and out of the woods. But the good news is I'm seeing the results and I'm getting there. And you know what? I encourage everybody to do it as well. I really do. I mean, if you're not feeling good about yourself, make some changes. Like it only benefits you in the end. It's a matter of what you make time for. And that's pretty much it, right? And I got a lot of shit I need to do. I can't put dying in there. I have no time for death right now. So I'm doing something about it. And I'm happy I am. So and you know what? I thank all of you for your encouragement. And I'm going to give a special shout out to Sandra Kincaid. Okay. Sandra has been very, very instrumental in pushing me to get healthy and with my CPAP machine and everything. I've got to talk to her a couple times on the phone here, and she has very much encouraged me to keep pushing. And so that's what I've done. And when I needed help with my CPAP machine, she was right there. She was right there for me and to take my call and everything. And I'm just so thankful for that. Very thankful for that. And she deserves a lot of the credit in helping me get better. So thank you, Sandra. Appreciate you. Thank you. So, yeah, now it's about figuring out how to get my settings. You know what bugs me about my CPAP? Sandra, I know you're listening, and this is actually what I want to talk to you about. But every morning I feel like I have like soreness in my sternum to my stomach, like I just did a bunch of sit-ups overnight. So I don't know why. That all started when I started on the CPAP. I don't know if it's air in my stomach or not. I really don't. Yes, Senator, I'm wearing the full face mask for right now because when they sent me the wrong machine, when they sent me the wrong machine, they only sent me the face mask. But I talked to them the other day, and they're sending me the nose pillows because nose pillows are cool. Oh my God. Where are my files? Open files. Open files. There's nothing in here. What the hell do they mean, open files? Just copy the damn thing. Current action cannot be performed because you have very low free disk space. What the hell does that mean? Low disk space. Weird. Oh, I wonder if that's on here. Oh, let's go put these in. Hold on, where do I have these? It's funny because I recently cleared out a lot of these. So art. There we go. Put that there. Close out that. And that one can go. And yeah, that can go too. That can go. Copy. Oh, sigh. Why is this doing this? How do I do this now? Files. Just did that, you moron. Oh, I'm so not a computer guy. So not a computer guy. Does anybody know what low disk space means? Nikki, that's what I thought about the deeper breathing. That's what I thought. Disk space. Oh, it is a little bit full. What the hell else? Temporary files. That's why. Oh, I have to clean out some temporary files. What's this one? Nope, can't get rid of that. Get rid of that. Oh. Like this. Close that off. Now we can get rid of that. Move that over. Let's empty the bin. Maybe that will help. That worked. Oh, that worked. Cool. Cool. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Oh, that's not right. Undo that. Copy. Paste. That's the first time in a number of years I've had that happen. Didn't know what was happening there. Copy. Paste. Science Bob tomorrow night, guys. Science Bob tomorrow night, which is good. We're going to have a lot of fun with him. You know he's going to go off on this whole UFO thing, which is going to be good. All right. There we go. We got that all done. And let's switch this over here. On that note, guys, I'm going to get ready to say goodnight to everybody here as I start the process for converting to MP3s. Thank you to T-Bone ×2, Stephen and Deb for the great super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. Thank you to all our new subscribers and everything. So make sure you come on back tomorrow. Tell a friend. We'd really appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Much love.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.